on Zoom, I want to say. Do we see him?
I do not.
Okay. If I could please ask Supervisor Hogan to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this point in time, I'd like to welcome our public here, but also remind you that we do have a sign-in sheet at the front table if you haven't had a chance to sign in, and ask for our clerk to please do the roll call.
Mr. Conover?
Here.
Mr. Leggett?
Here.
Mr. Diamond?
Here.
Mr. McDevitt?
Here.
Ms. Bramer?
Here.
Mr. Bruno?
Here.
Mr. Driscoll?
Here.
Mrs. Frazier?
Here.
Ms. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Hogan?
Here.
Mr. Dickinson? Mr. Merlino? Mr. Stroud?
Here.
Mr. Wild?
Here.
Mr. McGowan?
Here.
Mr. Beatty?
Here.
Mr. Thomas?
Here.
Ms. Shepler?
Here.
Mr. Garrity?
Here.
Chairwoman Seaver?
Present.
Quorum is established.
Thank you. May I please have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 21st, 2021 board meeting, which is subject to correction by the clerk. That motion is made by Supervisor Beatty and seconded by Supervisor Bruno. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? That carries. Thank you. At this point in time, beginning in January, we did reestablish our Employee of the Month award. And we're so excited that we get to do this here in person, and really the first time where we have a lot of our public invited and back here with us again. If I could ask Supervisor Bramer to please join me, and Kevin Hajos as well. Our Employee of the Month this month is Zach. Zach is one of our maintenance experts, but he has a great team and a lot of hard people working with him. In particular, Butch, Nancy, John, Frank, Josh, Scott, and Andre. They are all working very hard with him, but Zach is, you may have met him when we did the dedication of the COVID memorial tree. He's working very hard right now to protect it from all of our gypsy moth caterpillars, and he's doing a great job. But what we wanted to do is take a moment to recognize him, and I'll ask that Zach join Kevin up front, and we'll hear a little bit about Zach today.
Yeah, I have just something real brief to say about Zach. Zach came to the county in 2018. From the day Zach started till now, Zach has continually gone above and beyond in the Buildings and Grounds Department. He's taken on any task that is asked of him, and he gives 100%, 110% each time. He assists in all facets of the department and is willing to learn any new trade, which in turn is making him a valuable member of that team. His interaction with any department is above and beyond, and above all, pleasant. We hear continuously, and Scott Rogers can vouch for this, that his work ethic and his constant smile and desire to succeed is a plus any time that they ever see him. Zach came to me this past winter requesting to take over the task of beautifying the county center from Brenda Ashline, who is one of our Employee of the Months as well. And Zach said to me he wanted to make some changes, wanted to do some new things, and I said, Zach, it's all yours, and thank you for doing that. So that just goes to show how Zach just wants to take on something and just do a wonderful job at it. Zach has picked up right where Brenda left off. When the idea was brought up to plant the memorial tree to those who had passed to COVID, Zach jumped at the chance to take that on as his own project. From the initial start, working with Jim Lieberman and Soil and Water for the tree, as well as making sure the day of the event that everything was in place and it was ready to go. So without further ado, our Employee of the Month, Zach Ruling.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations once again, Jack. or Zach, excuse me. Next up, and it was a late addition to our agenda, but we do want to take a moment to recognize a couple of employees. You'll recall last month, we talked a lot about a new leadership badge that we created as part, and I say we, I'm talking about Liza, who does an incredible job with our employment and training department, Jackie Figueroa in HR, and several supervisors and our county administrator who talked about an initiative where we would be able to encourage additional training. Some of those courses that are taken, those are things like facing challenges as first-time managers, managing a diverse team, a manager's guide to diversity, inclusion, and accommodation, dealing with conflict, a mindful leader. There are many programs and training opportunities that we now offer, which all equate 12 courses to a leadership badge. We just rolled this out just last month, and already we had 2 of our department heads, and this is offered to our supervisory staff and our department heads, along with many other trainings to our employees, but we had 2 that completed them. And you may all recall when we complete our safety training series that we recognize those employees. With our safety training, we give them a hard hat. I kind of feel like when you take leadership training, you should get that too, but we have a certificate for them. And I don't know if Marcy Flores or Amy Clute, don't see them here in person, but we will make sure that the certificate gets to them. They have both completed the entire leadership badge training, and we will continue to encourage our supervisory staff to take this training. And of course, all of our supervisors are welcome to take it as well. I know I started it, and the training manager on it, his name is Ryan. So I would say that many of the things we're learning are very relevant to our jobs. But congratulations to both Marcy Flores, our public defender, and Amy Clute, the head of our self-insurance as well. Next up, we have our College Excellence Award. And we had our college graduates as community sponsors of SUNY Adirondack. We sponsor with Washington County. And years ago, we started a Certificate of Excellence Award. And this award is given out annually to an outstanding SUNY Adirondack student. The Warren County Board of Supervisors presents this award to one student who will best represent the criteria. That criteria includes overcoming significant obstacles in the course of pursuing their education, demonstrating academic achievement, exhibiting motivation, tenacity, and enthusiasm, and is a Warren County resident. It is my pleasure today to ask our Personnel and Higher Education Chairwoman Bramer to please join me and to ask Christine Bramer and her family to come forward, and we're happy to present to you our award today.
I'm here. If you'll indulge me for just a minute, I want to explain her nomination to the board. And on behalf of the Personnel Committee, as well as the entire Board of Supervisors, we congratulate you. We're proud to announce that this is going to a woman graduating from the nursing program who currently meets all of those criteria. She lost her husband earlier to cancer while she was pregnant with their child. She raised her daughter, worked as an LPN, and later enrolled in the SUNY nursing program. While in the program, she suffered her own personal setbacks and had to leave the program. But through her strong determination and persistence, she has returned and completed her nursing program. Please join me again in congratulating Christine.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Okay. I'm truly humbled to receive this. When I was in the nursing program before, after 19 years of being an LPN, raising a beautiful daughter who was diagnosed with autism and epilepsy, severe form of epilepsy. it was challenging. But when I was in the program, I had a pretty severe head injury to form of a mild traumatic brain injury, where I had to leave the program, and it took me 2 years to kind of get my head straightened out and where I could walk and talk without falling over. And I had to restart the program all over again from the very beginning, and I wouldn't change a thing. And there's a lot of support from I remarried 6 years ago from my husband, who's helped me raise this beautiful girl of mine. And I'm happily to report that I've accepted a position at Saratoga Hospital working in their ICU department for critical care, which is my passion. So I'm truly honored to receive this award. Thank you very much.
That was. You look.
At this point in time, we'd like to declare a public hearing open on the proposed Law 4 of 2021, entitled "A Local Law Adopting a Pilot Youth Deer Hunting Program," and I request that the clerk at this time read the notice of the public hearing out loud. Anyone wishing to be heard on this matter certainly will be able to be heard in just a moment.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Warren, New York is considering the adoption of a proposed local law number 4 for the year 2021, entitled "A Local Law Adopting a Pilot Youth Deer Hunting Program." The purpose of this local law is to authorize the expansion of youth hunting and allow licensed hunters ages 12 or 13 to hunt deer with a crossbow, rifle, shotgun, or muzzle-loading firearm when accompanied by a parent, legal guardian, or mentor. Notice is further given that pursuant to Resolution Number 186 of 2021, adopted by the Board of Supervisors on May 21st, 2021, a public hearing will be held by the Board of Supervisors at the Supervisors' Rooms in the Warren County Municipal Center, located at 1340 State Route 9, Queensboro, New York, on June 16th, 2021 at 4 p.m., at which time and place all persons interested in the matter of such proposed local law number 4 for the year 2021 will be heard concerning same. A copy of said local law is available for inspection during regular business hours by contacting the clerk of the Board of Supervisors at the above stated address and may be viewed on the Warren County website.
Thank you. At this point in time, is anyone here to make any public comment? First in person? Yes, sir. Please step to the microphone and state your name for the record. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Dan Ladd. I actually live in Washington County, but I'm here to represent a couple of different interests. First is the Warren County Conservation Council. Because I belong to the Dunham's Bay Fishing Game Club up on Ridge Road in Queensbury, we are part of the County Conservation Council, which we've been resurrecting. We probably represent approximately 4,000 sportsmen in this county alone, and that's just the people that are involved with shooting clubs and hunting clubs. And I can tell you, we're all for this. We've pretty much every club that exists has a youth program. Some of the things you've heard about earlier from Erica and John Bowe and George Gedney, who's here, that stuff is all very real. It's all very big. And bringing kids in is a big thing of what we do. It's a big part of what we do. On a grander scale, some of you may remember me from the Chronicle. I used to write the outdoors page. Now I work for a paper called New York Outdoor News, and I've been following this issue very closely, have received dozens of letters from readers. We've been talking about this, pushing for this for years, mainly because we know what's at stake, what it can mean for us, and what it can mean for the kids. When we see these kids get involved, it's just a wonderful thing. And George can attest to that from what he saw this weekend with some of the trap shooting leagues over in Hudson Falls. It's just getting kids involved in these sports, outdoor sports. I know they talked about how safe it was at the last hearing, and I won't get into that anymore because they did such a good job with it. I just want to say what a great thing it is, what a pleasure it is, and it's been long, long overdue. I took out a 12-year-old kid during the first youth turkey hunt that took place in 2004 because 12 and 13-year-olds have been able to hunt small game. They've been able to hunt such as turkeys. They've been able to hunt with a crossbow, not with a crossbow, with archery, deer during this time. So this is just kind of the next step that should have been taken a long time ago. On a personal level, again, I've been out with kids, small game hunting. I've been on the turkey hunts are wonderful, and I can't wait to take a 12 or a 13-year-old kid deer hunting. Lastly, on another personal level, I do hunt in Warren County, even though I live in Washington County. I hunt in both counties. A friend of mine has property on the Horicon-Bolton border up around the Payne-Aram area. And we look forward to bringing more kids in. We've started them out. We've had them following us through the woods when they were 8, 10 years old, just like my father did to me when I was that age. And the sooner we can get them involved, the better it will be. So hopefully you folks will move forward with this and pass this. And I thank you in advance if you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ladd. Mr. Bowe, I believe you are also here to speak. Is that correct?
Correct. And I'm here virtually. Obviously.
I know, and I appreciate you being here. Thank you. I know you have another meeting to go to, so I wanted to make sure you were heard.
Thank you. So I'm not here to advocate in favor or against this. I'm just here to provide facts on representing Cornell Cooperative Extension and 4-H shooting sports. So a couple of bullets that I presented the last time. According to research completed by the New York State Department of Conservation, youth ages 12 to 13 who are accompanied by knowledgeable mentors are the safest group of hunters. And this is nationwide, not just here in New York. Youth 12 years of age and having completed hunter education program and purchased a license have hunted small game since 1991 with a very strong safety record. In New York State 4-H shooting sports, we have a 30-year history of educating youth in firearm safety. 12 years of age or older in the operation of firearms for target, recreation, and hunting. We have never had an accident in that 30-year history. And again, this all comes down to these youth must be with a knowledgeable, present adult mentor. That's key to the safety aspect and key to the success of this program. New York State's only one of 4 states that does not allow educated hunters 12 and over from hunting big game. So they are the only ones that do not allow 12 to 14 currently hunt big game. And research by the Responsive Management Organization, which is often hired by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, shows that families that hunt together are closer and more likely to communicate with one another. And that's all I have for you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Are there other members here today that would like to speak? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. I spoke at the workshop back when we held it originally. This is a pretty unique thing with the counties in New York State because they've asked you folks to represent your county residents with something that we believe is really important, and it's being done all over the state. We've heard that 18 counties have already passed this, and it's pretty unique when it all came out to us from the DEC because they said, listen, you go out there and sell that to your counties. That's basically what they said. So representatives like John Bowe, who I've worked with for over 20 years as a 4-H shooting sports instructor, Dan, other people, on behalf of hunting families, have come into groups all throughout the state like yourself to get you to listen, learn a little bit about it because you may not be in a hunting family, and realize that we're just asking for an expansion of what has been going on in this state for years and years and years, which is 12-year-olders and 13-year-olders have been able to hunt waterfowl, turkeys, small game, big game with a bow, also with a crossbow. It's been going on for years, and the track record has been exemplary. As a person who reads and studies accidents from both in New York State and all over the United States, I'm pretty well versed on hunting accidents and what happens out there, or hunting incidents, and properly supervised youth are not an issue. Okay, so when we come to these counties and we're talking about that, our experience is telling us that within hunting families, the reduction in the age to hunt big game to 12 years old is a natural. I mean, I've been working on this issue for 30 years of my career as being an instructor, a DEC hunter ed instructor, 4-H shooting sports instructor, both state and local, and working with all kinds of shooting sports programs. This is really important to hunting families. It gives a head start on a good ethical start into this sport. And deer hunting is it. Honestly, a lot of people hunt turkeys and small game and waterfowl, but to give you a number, there's 18,000 waterfowl hunters in New York State per DEC. 18,000, and that includes ages from 12 to ancient. We're talking 500,000 to 600,000 active deer hunters. So when it comes down to where we fit and where the impact can be to teach youngsters the proper way to enjoy a sport, it's got to go to big game hunting. And the DEC knows this. That's why they pushed. I know it went through a reconciliation bill, but we fight downstate all the time. And the idea is it's here and now, and we have an opportunity. It's a unique one because it's a 2-year, it sunsets. It starts today, hopefully with a positive vote. We'll go through, we'll show everybody that we can do this. We've done it time and time again. When they lowered 16 to 14 for guns, there was no issue. From when I started 14 years old, when I could hunt small game, now it's 12. We can show that the youth of Warren County are no different than the youth in other 46 states that pursue this safely. We have so many hunters that take their youngsters to Vermont, Pennsylvania, Ohio, all over the place so that they can hunt with them at a younger age. They should be able to do it in their backyard. I mean, it's the impacts on what's going on is with regards to opportunities out there. The kids just make a difference being out with their folks. So I want to thank you for doing this. Dan just mentioned about Saturday. We had 70 kids. They shot 7,000 clay targets. They're from 8 schools in the area. I help organize the high school clay target league out here, which is the fastest growing sport in New York State and the nation. I'm around kids and guns all the time. 8 straight hours on Saturday, 7,000 shotgun shells fired. Not one in anger. Many of them missed their targets, but the kids had a lot of fun, and they demonstrated to everybody there that this age group, 12 and up, because that's high school clay target, can be around firearms with proper supervision and do it the right way. So thank you. I hope you look and vote in favor of the hunting families in this county. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Other members of the public here today that wish to be heard? Are there any members on Zoom or on YouTube, Mr. Lehman, that wish to be heard?
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Seaver. No, there is no comment on YouTube on this local law proposed right now.
Very good. If there's no further comments then, at this point in time, I'll close this public hearing. Thank you very much for coming and sharing your comments with us today. Our next public hearing will be on our proposed law number 5 of 2021. This is entitled A Local Law Amending and Updating Local Law number 6 of 2014, which is our Warren County Ethics and Disclosure Law. At this point in time, I'd ask Ms. Allen to please read the notice of public hearing out loud. And once again, we'll extend privilege of the floor right after.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Warren, New York is considering the adoption of a proposed local law number 5 for the year 2021 entitled A Local Law Amending and Updating Local Law number 6 of 2014, Warren County Ethics and Disclosure Law. The purpose of the local law is to revise and update the ethics and disclosure law for Warren County in accordance with the provisions of Article 18 of the General Municipal Law. If adopted, local law number 5 of 2021 will supersede Warren County local law number 6 of 2014, which established ethical principles and standards to be followed by certain covered persons, including Warren County's elected and appointed officials, its officers, and certain employees in policymaking positions or who have discretionary authority, and instituted requirements regarding the disclosure of certain interests as defined in the local law in accordance with the required annual filing of written disclosure statements. Notice is further given that pursuant to Resolution number 189 of 2021, adopted by the Board of Supervisors on May 21st, 2021, a public hearing will be held by the Board of Supervisors at the Supervisors Rooms in the Warren County Municipal Center located at 1340 State Route 9, Queensbury, New York, on June 16, 2021 at 4 p.m., at which time and place all persons interested in the matter of such proposed local law number 5 for the year 2021 will be heard concerning the same. A copy of said local law is available for inspection during regular business hours by contacting the clerk of the Board of Supervisors at the above stated address and may be viewed on the Warren County website.
Thank you. Are there members of the public that wish to be heard today on this proposed local law? Yes, Sheriff LaFar.
Good afternoon, everybody. Ethics and integrity, quality are principles that we live by in our sheriff's office. I've had the opportunity to speak with almost every supervisor in here today. And first off, I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to take a look at this local law that's been in existence, and in my humble opinion, to make some revisions and improvements. Our sheriff's office is not immune to the struggles that are facing New York State and the employment front. We're struggling to recruit and retain good candidates for law enforcement, corrections, communications. Civil Service Director Nettinger sent out an invitation this week for correction officer candidates. 16 invitations were sent out. One person responded. There might be one person or a few attending this physical agility test tomorrow. If this local law, the revisions are approved, it will have an immediate and lasting effect, a beneficial effect for our sheriff's office. I understand that there are a couple of components to the proposals in this revised law. I've been working in the sheriff's office for 30 years, and under the prior administration, I served as the records access officer, responding to FOIL requests. So I understand a little bit about financial disclosures. I understand what I'm required to release to the public, and I have no issues about releasing any of my information. And I know that I have no say or involvement in how you vote on that matter, but I would like to, the reason I bring it up is I know that there will be a committee that will convene to work further on that issue. And I just offer my expertise if you see fit to invite me in and participate in some of those meetings. Under Sheriff Pomo and I are asking for your support today with the approval of this local law. And there is an absolute strong sense of urgency for our sheriff's office. If this local law is not approved on this date, it will have an immediate and adverse effect for candidates who are existing on our list. So I thank you again for your time and consideration. And again, we seek your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheriff. Are there other members of the public today that would like to be heard? Mr. Lehman, are there comments regarding this public hearing online?
Hello, Chairwoman Seaver. No, there is nothing on YouTube related to this.
At this point, I'd like to close the public hearing as it relates to local law number 5 of 2021 to be updated through number 6 of 2014. And again, today, as it stands before you. Thank you. We'll move on to our reports by committee. I feel like every time I give a report, I say it's been a busy month, but I also know how busy it's been for each one of you. And I continue to thank all of our members on this board and our committee chairs for the hard work that you're doing. I know that we share in a common vision, and that is to serve our communities to the best of our abilities. And I thank you all for the efforts that you do in that each and every day. In addition to the approximate 15 committee meetings that I attended this month, I also attended various hospitality task force meetings, economic task force meetings, LDC meetings, IDA, which I was very excited to see the IDA for Warren and Washington County utilize our boardroom last night for a hybrid meeting, and welcome again our public back in to be able to utilize our forum here. I will say you have nice little cheat sheets in front of you on how to use all of the electronics, so it made it very easy for them to be able to zoom in some of their members as well. Before you today, you have a couple pieces of information that were sent by the state. And again, thanking our state partners for our vaccination center here at Exit 19. We continue to see traffic, but as our numbers have risen and our vaccination numbers have gone up, which is a good thing, we also know that that means our Exit 19 vaccination center is not as busy. So you have a flyer that the tourism department worked very hard on. Thank you, Peter Gerard, for your artistic abilities with that. And to Don Lehman and to Janelle in public health and Joanne Conley, and also to Gina over at the CVB. This was a joint effort in trying to get out the word about our vaccination center, both to our local community, but to tourists that are coming here. It's a walk-in clinic. It is quick, professional, and we want to make sure that anyone coming into our community knows that that is available for them right here at our mall. So if you would please circulate that, and we'll make sure everyone is sent a copy of it as well, so you can tailor that to your own community and get that out too. You also have in front of you a number of positive test results by phase, and that came in just a little while ago. And Sam Parker is our Capital Region representative who works very hard with multiple counties, but stays in touch both with me and with Ryan Moore and many other members on a regular basis. He said it was fine for me to share this today with the board. And as I think I mentioned at the last meeting, we do not have the control room calls anymore, which is a good thing. And of course, we reached that 70% yesterday. And I know Tammy and Janelle are both going to talk a little bit about what that means to our county. But this chart in front of you provides you with the number of positives in the capital region over the latest 2-week period. There were 246 cases for an average of 17.6 per day. This is lower than our previous 2-week, which was 624 cases and 44.6 per day. So we are definitely seeing those numbers come down and the increase in our vaccinations. So we know that's helpful. And I, again, thank both our public health and our state partners for all their efforts there. At this point in time, I'd also like to recognize that Supervisor Hogan is our Economic Development and Growth Committee Chairwoman, has taken on the additional role as my first alternate with our Warren County EDC, and certainly appreciate the extra work and time. And it is a nice representation that's consistent with her duties and hard work that she's providing as your chairwoman in that committee. We've also been in contact with the Park Commission. The Park Commission has created an ad hoc advisory board, which I'm sure you'll hear a little bit more about today, but we were asked to have representation on that. My understanding is that the towns that are impacted from this advisory group all have representatives on them. And in speaking with our county administrator, one of the suggestions had been to have both Ethan from our planning department, who's working very hard, be our staff representative, and have Supervisor Bramer be our elected representative to continue to join in this task force that will meet monthly to talk a little bit more about the septic systems and concerns as it relates to the Park Commission. So thank you, Supervisor Bramer, for saying yes to that, and to Ethan, who we continue to use our planning department in many different ways, and we know we're keeping them very busy. A few of the things that have been taking place that I think are notable to bring up here today, as you all know, our county administrator is taking some well-deserved leave. He'll be back right after the 4th, the July 4th holiday. So I've been working closely with our department heads and covering some of those duties in his absence. And I also am very grateful for the work of our clerk of the board, who's worked hard to send many, many thank you letters and acknowledgements out to so many hardworking employees and partners that we have here in Warren County. We recently are sending letters to every Warren County graduate from the community college. We're very proud of them, and that's a tradition that we want to continue. We started, as you heard today, about our leadership badge, and I would encourage all of you to take a look at that and then complete that badge training. It's very, very helpful. I participated in union negotiation meetings this month in our National Association of Counties, their public safety and criminal justice meeting. I have had an opportunity to meet more with our self-insurance broker and our HR department. I will say that's been very helpful to look at that, especially being personnel chair at the time in 2017 into 18 when we started to move over to self-insurance. So we're taking a hard look at how we can make our employment here at the county more beneficial, but also recruitment. And I know we're all struggling with that. So what are some different ways that we can look at that? We did not have an inter-county meeting this month. I attended the joint Warren Washington County College meeting. And, once again, I commit and promise to all of our municipalities in our city that I will work on getting to every single meeting and learning more about your municipalities. Last night, I started that off or Monday night, Lake George. And so that was a wonderful meeting to be at as they first came back together in person. And I'm seeing all our towns reopen and have that full availability. So I enjoyed spending several hours meeting with the council there and with Supervisor Dickinson. And I look forward to getting out and seeing all of your individual meetings as well. That being said, there's a lot of other things on the calendar, which I am not going to sit here and read all of those, but I will make sure that Amanda has a lot of that information as well. So thank you for your hard work. And I look forward now to being able to hear from our committee chairs and have you share with the public the hard work that you're doing in your committees. Our first committee serves as a dual role, Supervisor Beatty. We, of course, formed what we like to call the catch-all committee. And I'm proud to say that we haven't had to use that catch-all committee in the last several months. So I know there is no report on that, but Supervisor Beatty, if you would please give us your finance report as well as your government operations and advocacy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Finance met late May, and as the policy here, we usually have Mr. Swan, our treasurer. I think he's here. Yep. Mr. Swan, would you come on up? He gives us a short recap of the month from a treasury standpoint, and it will be available for any questions concerning any of the resolutions from finance. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Swan now.
Good evening, everybody. I don't have a lot to say other than the fact that I think you've all seen the sales tax information that came out. I would be very guarded about that because there's always an adjustment that will be coming in a couple of weeks. And the amounts that we're getting may or may not be what they're being shown right now. So I try not to get too excited about that. Other than that, things are progressing. We're getting ready to start working with our budget officer. And we're also starting to work on the stimulus money and getting an idea of where we want to be with that. We have received the $6.2 million check. And I'm waiting for our chairwoman and the county administrator to sit down with us, and we'll see what we can do with that money and how we can best use it for this county and for the people. Any questions?
I will say, Treasurer Swan, you have been incredibly helpful, particularly in the last few weeks, as we have been able to meet almost daily. And I really appreciate all the help that you've provided in making sure that our resolutions in front of us are correct. And you've had some hard issues. We are definitely working on that task force and putting that together. That guidance is not finalized until July 9th. Several of us will also be attending a training on it. And we look forward, we have a meeting set up, I believe, the week that our administrator gets back. And we'll hit the ground running talking about that task force, but you've had some really great ideas.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for our treasurer? Supervisor Beatty?
Thank you, Mr. Swan. So the resolutions before you are 198, 199 from finance. First one's supplemental appropriations, and the next one's amending Warren County budget for the 2021 for various departments within, fairly self-explanatory. Also from finance, resolutions 233 to 248, if you want to flip back through there. 233 will be eliminating the mileage reimbursement to supervisors of the county for travel to the county municipal center to attend county meetings and board meetings. 234 will be approving a tentative operating budget for fiscal 2021-2022 for SUNY Adirondack and providing for a public hearing. 235 is adopting amended Warren County volunteer policy and procedure. 236 will be increasing capital project on a road over in Brant Lake and the Inlet Bridge. We'll be authorizing the transfer of funds and amending the Warren County budget for 2021. Now, as I'm reading these through, they're fairly self-explanatory, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask me, but more importantly, probably Mr. Swan. She's the expert in the finance area. 237 is the DPW increasing capital project H386 over Halfway Creek Bridge replacement, authorizing transfer of the funds and amending the county budget naturally. 238, increasing the capital project in Olmansville Road. I think I said it right.
Olmstedville.
Oldstedville. Thank you very much. Somebody gets a gold star.
Oh.
I believe that's Mr. Leggett who gets the gold star. Thank you.
And more technically, it's Pottersville, Olmstedville
Yeah.
Road.
We didn't put Pottersville down. Should we put Pottersville down too? Okay, thank you, Mr. Leggett. You're a generous man. 239, increasing capital project, Oxbow Hill Road and Moon Hill Road, that's in Queensbury, authorizing the transfer of funds and obviously amending the county budget. 240, increasing the capital project, Fire Training Center project, authorizing transfer of funds and again adopting the, amending the county budget. 241, authorizing the county treasurer to write off uncollected state receivables. And could you, Mr. Swan, could you tell us the amount that we're going to be writing off? Do I have that down?
I don't have it here in front of me. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. 242, establishing capital project Lake George Septic Replacement Program, authorizing a transfer of funds and amending the county budget. I believe Dennis isn't here, but Claudia, is that the, we're seeking the grant from the state so that they can reimburse for the changing of the septics? Is that correct?
I was gonna get to that one. You're talking about 242?
I'm talking about 242, correct?
It's actually establishing the capital project for the treasurer's office. We've already entered into the agreement. Maybe Supervisor Hogan can speak more.
As much as I enjoy the discussion
Dialogue.
between each other here, I have a feeling we are on our best behaviors with Robert's rules. So if you don't mind, Supervisor Hogan, if you can answer Supervisor Beatty's question. And perhaps Supervisor Hogan, just move your microphone. Thank you.
This is resolution 242. And this concerns the establishing a capital project of H405, the Lake George Septic Replacement Program, and authorizing a transfer of funds, and amending our county budget. Could you give us a little more detail on that, Madam Chairman?
Supervisor Hogan?
Thank you.
Thank you. We need a place to park the money when it comes.
Okay. And how much, do we know how much we're expecting?
350. right?
40.
340.
340,000.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, very good. 243, this is real property tax services, authorizing the appropriation of funds from the environmental testing reserve to the real property tax services budget to pay Atlantic Testing Laboratories for a limited hazardous material survey of the Mosier's garage for the town of Johnsburg. We got to amend the county budget for that. 244, we're almost done here, ladies and gentlemen. Authorizing appropriation of funds from the Hoc tax reserve to the tourism and amending the county budget. 245, canceling or correcting of assessments and refunds or chargebacks of taxes. 246, authorizing the county treasurer to write off uncollected Medicare and private receivables carried over from December of 31, 2015 from the former Westmount Health Facility. I know we've had numerous discussions on this, and I know the Treasurer's Department has made serious efforts to collect all those funds that are outstanding. They went through numerous hoops. They hired someone, I believe, to who was more of an expert in that area, and they've done as good a job as we could to recoup these funds. Am I correct on that, Mr. Swan?
Yes, and I just do want to point out one thing. Even though we are writing this off, if we do by chance collect some additional funds, we can still collect the money. This is just, it doesn't prohibit us from getting anything in the future. And we are still in the process. We still have about $175,000 of uncollected out there that I have a real good feeling that we're still going to be able to collect.
Thank you, Mr. Swan. And the last one from the finance is the authorization of the county treasurer to close capital projects. Now, those are all the finance resolutions in your packet. Again, they're fairly self-explanatory. If you have any questions in the finance aspect, feel free to ask Mr. Swan right now. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Swan. Seeing none, I'll move right on to government operations and advocacy. There's only one resolution there. It's Resolution 249. We heard from the public law concerning lowering the age to 12 for our youth to participate in very supervised hunting program. And you saw and heard the phenomenal safety results of this program nationwide. Again, we're only one of 4 states that doesn't have it. I'm glad to see that we had a public hearing. I'm glad we heard from experts, from Mr. Ladd, from Mr. Petney, from Mr. Bowe, all concerning all of them relating to their expertise, how safe this program is. And it is the fastest growing sports program in New York State. So that's kind of interesting. So that's the one resolution enacting local law number 4, 2021, adopting a pilot youth deer hunting program. So that was all that came out of government ops, and that concludes my report, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you, Supervisor. Next is Supervisor Bramer with Personnel Administration and Higher Education.
Thank you so much, Chairwoman. I have been working on many personnel matters throughout the county through the last month, working with our HR director and many others. It's been a lot of work, especially some of the things were union negotiations, as well as getting an update on our health insurance policy, where we are going with that. So you'll hear more about that soon. Of course, our Employee of the Month meetings are always nice to attend. And also, I've been helping to fill in wherever I can for the county administrator, helping alongside other supervisors and our chairwoman. So it's been as the chairwoman said, a busy month. I do want to specifically thank Liza Ossendorf and our HR director, Jackie Figueroa, for helping to pull together the leadership training badge that we've already heard about. And we celebrated the 2 people and our department heads who have completed the badge. And we have rolled it out to all of the department heads, encouraging them at the department head meeting to start taking these training courses that are in the badge. The program is free and available to all the county employees now. So they have actually also been asked to have some of their supervisors, higher level management individuals, start taking a look at some of the courses as well. There are actually thousands of courses that are in this program that Liza has available to us. And so we don't really want the employees to have to sift through all these things, all these thousands of training courses. So that's why we put together this specific management badge. But it turns out that there are some very useful specific subject matter areas that are covered as well. So I think people like Amy Clute and others have found things that are very useful to them. So I'm glad we're rolling that out and using something that's available to us that Jackie has told me used to cost thousands of dollars to take similar types of training. So I'm glad about that, saving us money and getting good leadership training there. I do want to let the entire board know that we are having our county attorney interviews on the morning of July 8th. I had hoped to do it sooner than that. I'd like to get it going, but just scheduling and making sure that we really have our I's dotted and our T's crossed. It will be that morning of July 8th, and our county administrator will be back at that time. There are in your packet several floor resolutions. I do want to call out 250, which was something that we passed previously. I worked very hard on that particular resolution. It's the ethics law that we are amending that Sheriff LaFar has already spoken to. It does, I believe, tighten up our ethics law and make our county board of ethics a little bit more active. And I think that will be important, especially once we get our financial disclosure form straightened out and more efficient for the board to look at. I am very, I think it's important that we move forward, but I think it's also important that we do continue to look at this and make sure that we are amending the form and making that in line with the changes that we made to the text of the law. So I ask for your support on 250. Also, personnel met on June 3rd, and we have a couple of new resolutions, 230 to 232. One is the CSEA agreement, which I think everyone already heard that the CSEA union did approve that, so we are happy about that. And also, there's a resolution on there for internet connection. Additionally, we met the next morning in a joint meeting between our committee and the Finance Committee, as well as Washington County, to hear from SUNY Adirondack about their budget for the upcoming school year. I think things overall are looking positive, and we did pass through personnel as well as finance the proposed budget. So that will be coming to you. That's in 234. You may have already covered that, Supervisor Beatty. I think that's all for personnel. As far as the Environmental Committee and real property, I will cover that since Supervisor Dickinson is not here and I'm Vice Chair. We met at the end of May, and as was already mentioned, Finance passed through a resolution regarding the money for the Mosier's property to do some additional testing there. So I ask for your support on that. And as was already mentioned, there is the place to park the money, the $340,000 for the septic replacement funds, which we are receiving from the state to use as grant money to property owners along Lake George to help them upgrade and replace their septic systems. And Ethan Gaddy in the planning office has been very busy working on that and contacting property owners. I want to say we have a few dozen people who have already reached out with interest. And so I think that money will be going pretty quickly. It'll stay, the application is online on the planning department's website. And I think that that money will be going pretty quickly. So I encourage people who are eligible to get on there and submit their applications. And along those lines, we do know that there were some concerns. It was brought up at one of the Monday tourism meetings about Million Dollar Beach being closed in a very quick fashion with not a lot of notice. We understand that Supervisor Dickinson did receive notice. I know he has reached out to Dave Wick and some others, and he is working on that. Then we had the closure or the issue with Hearthstone. And also I'll remind everybody about the harmful algal blooms that we had last fall. And I know everyone has heard this from me before, but it hasn't reached the full board about a septic program or a septic inspection at transfer law or a septic inspection every 3 to 5 years, something like that. I think it's really important that we start to address this and talk about it as a full board. And so at the appropriate time, Chairwoman, I would like to make a resolution during the resolutions, I'd like to bring something forward to the full board
So noted.
on that issue. Thank you. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Supervisor Conover, Public Works.
Thank you. Public Works met on May 25th, represented in your packets by resolutions 216 through 227. Most of it, I think, is self-explanatory. Our commissioner is here, Kevin Hajos, to answer any specific questions that you have. I would like, however, to identify two resolutions in particular to bring to your attention. The first is 225 to make a smart growth grant application to the state for developing an organics management plan. This is really the logical outgrowth of one of the recommendations that we have in our solid waste master plan. This board has taken a number of steps forward to collect good data and to beef up our staff to hopefully give us the kind of information that we need to have to make good decisions going forward. And one of the things that I'm happy to see, and I certainly compliment our Public Works Department for stepping out right away with asking for a state to participate in a grant to see what we might be able to develop and do with organics. As you know, if we can develop a program for organics, we're taking a huge part of our waste stream and taking it out of the general disposal. That has major implications going forward, not only financially, but environmentally. So kudos to them for stepping out with this so quickly. And the second item is resolution 227 that deals with e-bikes. We've had a number of, I've received a number of calls regarding this, not the least of which was from our Mr. Hajos. And as it turns out, this is going to require an amendment to our local law, and there are a number of other issues associated with this, including seeker and other types of things. So I think it would be best, and also my understanding is that Chairman Diamond and Public Safety would like to have an opportunity to participate in the development of whatever's going to happen here. So without objection, what I would recommend at this stage is that 227 be sent back to committee. And I'd be willing to make that as a motion right now, but to also as a sidebar, say that if the chairwoman thinks that a joint meeting with public safety would be helpful, certainly we would be, I think that's probably a good idea as well.
Thank you, Supervisor Conover. I agree with you. I think given the concerns that have come up, that might be appropriate. So are you making a motion for that
That's
at this
my
time
motion.
to refer to the
Send it
committee?
back to committee.
A joint committee meeting of both Public Works and criminal or public safety? Is that their second for that,
I'd like to
Supervisor
second
Diamond?
that, Madam Chair.
Excellent. Thank you, Supervisor Diamond. Is there a discussion on this? Supervisor McGowan?
Thank you. Yes, I was, thank you, Madam Chair. I was raising my hand to second that, but I want to, I will really thank you, Supervisor Diamond, for taking that away from me there. But I really think that's a really great idea to move it back in discussion. And I agree with Supervisor Conover that that we do a joint. It's a complicated situation, and we want to get it right. But I do see a lot of spikes coming up the hill at my house. And, you know, I have to say, it's a lot of older people, and I'm really happy to see them out and exercising. So I think we should do this right. So thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor McGowan. I'll just remind, friendly reminder to our members here today that discussion is limited on this to the extent that we are referring it back to a joint committee. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That motion carries. Thank you very much. Please remove resolution 227 from your agenda.
And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Supervisor Conover still sticks with me. Supervisor Diamond with Public Safety.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Public Safety met in the month of May, which includes the Office of Emergency Services, along with the Sheriff's Department. Resolutions 2011 through 2015 are before you today for your consideration for approval. Resolution 211 is an adoption of the Office of Emergency Service Public Safety Defibrillation Program Plan. That's an annual plan that needs to be updated. The plan is to increase the amount of defibrillators and signage for public use. We also would include training for CPR for some employees that are there. This program was last updated in 2012, this policy. So we're going to be looking at this on a annual basis to update this on a regular basis. Resolution 212 is authorizing a continuation of an agreement with the Emergency Service Marketing Corporation to continue the provisions of IM responding software for the Office of Emergency Services. The IM software program designated to reduce emergency service response time and enhance communications for all emergency responders. It's a 5-year term commencing January 1st, 2022 and terminating on December 31st, 2026. The 5-year cost is $17,388 annually, and it's going to come out of budget code A3640470 Civil Defense Contract. Resolution 2013 is a resolution regards to authorizing the Watch System LLC for registered sex offenders management and public notification software and support for the Warren County Sheriff's Office. The term would be commencing execution. The support for the term commencing upon execution by both parties and terminating April 30th, 2024. The total cost is $11,355.70 $1,258.75 or $3,785.25. The sheriff is here if there's any questions. That's coming out of budget code line A3110-470, Sheriff's Law Enforcement Contract. Resolution 2014 is authorizing an agreement with Secure Watch 24 annual connections to the license plate reader system for the Warren County Sheriff's Office. The office at a total cost not to exceed $480. The parties, once commenced, once it's been approved, and it terminates on 2023. Money will be appropriated out of budget code A3110-470 Sheriff's Law Enforcement Contract. Final resolution in front of you today is to authorize a one-time payment to Chicks Marina for the winter storage of two 17-foot Boston Whaler patrol vessels on behalf of the Warren County. The winter storage was for 2020 and wasn't included in our initial agreement. But since then, we did store it there. The cost that we will be paying Chicks Marina is $1,806.26 for winter storage for the two 17-foot Boston Whaler vessels. That money will be appropriated out of budget code A3110-470 Sheriff's Law Enforcement Contract. If there's any questions, the sheriff is here. That concludes my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Supervisor. Supervisor Driscoll, Human Services.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. The Human Services Committee met on Monday, May 24th. Coming from that meeting was Resolution 210, which is amending an agreement with Hudson Headwaters Health Network to continue to provide physical examinations to new Countryside adult home employees per basically a number of state organizations that mandate that. The next meeting will be held on this coming Monday, June 21st, on or about 12:30. We'll be hearing from Department of Social Services, Countryside Adult Home, and I've got to go through my notes. I believe that Denise from Veteran Services will also be sharing some information. In addition to that information, I've also asked Commissioner Chris Hanchett to provide an update on the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. That's the program where renters can get some relief, and also landlords can get paid from some federal funds that are available. And I've also asked Chris if at all possible, if he can break those numbers down to zip codes, so we can get an idea of how popular that program is being accessed throughout Warren County. I also, I think yesterday, shared some information about the Salvation Army and having hotspots, 70 hotspots available for families with children K to 12. And I'll also be getting an update on the status of that program at the meeting. And also I've invited Don Franks, who's part of a group called RAM, which is going to be holding a free health clinic over the Washington County Fairgrounds in September to share some information with us and also provide a short presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Supervisor Frazier with Health Services.
Thank you. Health Services met on May the 24th. As a result of that, we only have one resolution this month. It's amending the agreement with Glens Falls Animal Hospital to administer rabies inoculations for domestic dogs and cats within Warren County, and for the preparation of animal heads and other parts for laboratory testing for Warren County Health Services Department, and to increase rates paid for submission and shipping of animals specimens for the rabies testing. So that's all we have for there. Before I turn it over to Janelle Jones, who will give us an update on the changes that came about as a result of Cuomo's press conference yesterday, I would just like to say I was very disappointed in Governor Cuomo yesterday Missing from his accolades was the public health. And how could he have overlooked this vital group? He was there to give everyone else a pat on the back, tell them what a wonderful job they did. And yet when it came to public health, he was silent. I was just really bothered by that. So on behalf of my committee, I would like to thank all of those in Warren County Public Health and other departments that went above and beyond during the pandemic. And we are where we are in our county pandemic-wise due to the hard work and dedication of this group. So I just feel it's important to let them know that they are appreciated, but definitely am disappointed that the governor did not recognize them. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Janelle, who's going to give us an update on the changes that came about from yesterday.
Good evening or afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Supervisor Frazier, for your continuous support to our department. Our pandemic has certainly taken a community, and I can't be prouder of Warren County and our community, our departments, our Board of Supervisors, our administration, our public health staff. They've certainly got us to where we are now. We still have strides to go before it's over, but we at least can thank the progress on the efforts of the community. Helen Keller is somebody near and dear to my heart. I grew up in Alabama. For those of you that didn't know that, she's from Alabama. June 27th is Helen Keller Day. One of her quotes is, "Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much." And so I just felt it appropriate to bring that up. As far as COVID response, as you know that we've reported frequently, we respond to calls. We've done a lot of education and outreach. We've worked with community partners, networked throughout the community, with schools, with nursing homes, skilled nursing facilities, assisted living, businesses, etc. We've tested, we've progressed to vaccination, we've interpreted guidelines with the help of Ryan Moore, our administration, our Board of Supervisors. Don Lehman's been instrumental in helping us with that. Dan Durkee, our health educator and emergency preparedness coordinator, has been very good in helping us do that. As you know, things have been rapidly changing and it's very hard to keep up. And like with yesterday's announcement, we had everybody calling us saying, what does this mean for us? So, we're waiting for our guidance to be able to help other people. Just quickly with numbers, not to kind of bore you, but I just think we're at a pivotal point and just kind of getting a flair for what we've seen in our public health department. Our Warren County testing site so far to date has tested over 4,400 specimens. That's been since April 9th of 2020. Total in Warren County, this would include people being tested at the hospital, other providers, 131,789 tests have been done to date. That would also include our nursing homes and the staff that are being tested through that. Our total positive cases to date, these are lab confirmed, 3,509. Of those cases, 227 were in nursing homes, 13 were in assisted livings, 304 were in schools, 2,965 were in the community. With those 3,004 in the schools, those were all separate investigations that we did with school superintendents splitting hairs as to who needs to be quarantined and who doesn't. I will say that our schools have done a fantastic job. I feel in my heart we quarantined only the people that needed to be quarantined. We didn't take out whole classes. We really split hairs, and I think we did a nice job, and we didn't really see in-school transmission. So I do think that those efforts were warranted. Speaking of quarantines, in Warren County, we've quarantined over 9,717 people. With that said, we could not be where we are today without the cooperation of the community. It's very hard to tell people they have to quarantine, and it's hard for people to quarantine. And I just want to say that I appreciate the public's cooperation with the quarantines, the assistance from the county attorney's office that we received, the assistance from the sheriff's office that we did. At one time, we had 1,132 people in quarantine, and these were people getting daily phone calls and daily visits, thanks to the sheriff's department for helping us do that. We never could have done that as a department by ourselves. With travel quarantines, we had over 4,000 people referred to us as travelers. We followed up on every one of those. As of official quarantines of travelers, we did 2,665. The reason that number has such a discrepancy is a lot of times by the time we got the referral or the data, when we called, the people might have already been home or they were here just for the weekend. We did make calls on the weekend. And for our travel quarantines, we did make phone calls on the weekend as well, in addition to those 1,132. A lot of times we might get 180 traveler referrals a day. As far as vaccinations, this has been very exciting for me. When I first started working for the county, I came in 1994. In 1995, we saw the chickenpox vaccine or the varicella vaccine come out, and we saw like over 400 chickenpox cases go down to probably 3 within like a year or 2 of my tenure as a communicable disease nurse for the county. One of the exciting things I'm seeing now with the COVID vaccine is an inverse relationship. As our vaccines are going up, our cases are going down, and that's certainly the goal of the program. Warren County statistics right now, we're at 59.8% of fully vaccinated people in Warren County, according to the New York State statistics. That's of this afternoon. The state average is 49.6. So I think we're doing a great job there. We still have ways to go. My goal, as Don Lehman will tell you, is 100% of Warren County vaccinated, and I still want to get there. I love my sticker. We're going to get there, hopefully, or at least that's my goal. You can shoot for what you want, and I'm aiming high. We are the 4th strongest state, or the 4th strongest county in the state with regard to our vaccination statistics. 74.9% of our 18 and olders have been vaccinated. And I want to thank the efforts of our nurses, our community, our physicians, the hospital, anybody that's given a shot in the arm or anybody that's received a shot in the arm. I just really want to thank everybody for their support with this program. To echo Chairwoman Sieber, we're thankful for our state site being at exit 19. We have to show continued use and support of that to be able to sustain and encourage the state to keep that there. If people have family or friends that are 12 and older that haven't been vaccinated, please, please, please encourage them to go to that test or the vaccination site to get vaccinated. It's walk-in. It can't get any easier. If people have people at home, homebound people, call public health. We'll go out and vaccinate them. We've been working with businesses to vaccinate people. If a business wants us to come, we've been going to camps to vaccinate staff. We'll vaccinate campers. We finished our school campaign. We did 255 kids throughout Warren County. Just today, I attended a meeting at one of the pediatric practices, trying to get their buy-in to try to have them, offer vaccination at their office. So just briefly, I know you said brief, I'm sorry. There's a lot to COVID. I'm doing my best. And for people that know me, I'm a very thorough person to begin with. So thank you for humoring me. First of all, there's going to be a lot of lessons learned. Again, this pandemic isn't over. We're still very actively working downstairs. Even though you might see 0 cases, it still means we have to have people out vaccinating, people doing contact, education, this, that, and whatever. We still have people in quarantine that have to be contacted, et cetera. Our team in Warren County is phenomenal. And when I say Warren County team, I'm talking Board of Supervisors on down to the rank and file, in addition to the community. I think one of the keys that we had to success is that we have always had, and again, this is Team Warren County, a can-do attitude and what can I do to help? I can't thank the departments that have come up to us to say, hey, don't really know what you're doing there, but is there something I can do to help you? And I never once felt not supported, or that our department wasn't supported. Not once did I ask anybody to do, or not once did anybody ever say no. And I truly respected that everybody was there to help and support our efforts. I think another thing that was very helpful is the fact that we were available 24/7. When people are upset about something, they want to talk about it right then. They don't want to hear a recording. They don't want to wait till 8 o'clock the next morning. I think if you're able to diffuse something right when somebody's upset, they're not building up more anxiety. And I think that was the success that our department experienced in talking with people 24/7 and being available. Establishing rapport, I think, helped with our success of the quarantines, because I think what happens is instead of just saying you're in quarantine and see you later in 14 days, we were able to say, what kind of issues do you think you're going to have? Is there something that we can help and just trying to hit some of those up front and trying to kind of work with them, showed care, concern. And I think that went a long way. Staying till the job was done. I know you probably all have heard that. We truly did not leave until we got every case that was reported to us that day, we followed up on. Quicker you can get the contacts, the less time they're out in the community spreading it to other people. The other thing, and this goes to our businesses, especially the hotels, early on, they were working with us on the quarantine. The competitive nature went away. It was like, let's work together, let's get it done, let's figure out something. I was very appreciative of all the businesses, whether it was hospitals, whether it was doctors' offices, restaurants, whether it was hotels. Everybody in Warren County came together to work together without the dollar in their mind as to who was going to make more, who was going to get more, this, that, or whatever. Communication, Ryan Moore was very good at getting out the daily updates from the numbers that we were reporting daily, in addition to Don Lehman, and even other departments helping us with our website. The community support and the support at home. I think to be able to work the amount of hours that we have, and whether I'm talking about in Warren County or anywhere else across the state, we had to have heroes at home to do all the work so that they were feeding the dog, doing the laundry, doing the grocery shopping, so that we didn't have to worry about that kind of stuff, so we could worry about what we need to at work. With regard to the change that got announced by the governor yesterday, basically, there are 3 exemptions, or maybe 4, sorry. Healthcare being one, jails being another, public transportation. With that means that there's still some restrictions, and obviously schools. It's a confusing time. We've heard from most of our schools today because they all have the graduations that they're planning, and what does this mean to them? So we've been working very diligently with them. But for what this means for the majority of the community is that a lot of the COVID restrictions are gone, from the daily monitoring, the temps, the this, the that, and whatever. That means that we are no longer required to enforce this. People are kind of on the honor system if they're not vaccinated to kind of enforce themselves. It's not our place to tell people kind of what to do anymore, because we've hit that magic number of herd immunity. In Warren County, I'd like to see us move higher. 70 is not good enough for me. I still want people to get vaccinated, and I still want to encourage people to get vaccinated. But what it does mean is that, we can relax some of those things with mask use. You might be wondering, why am I wearing my mask? I still fit in that healthcare category. And until we seek further clarification, which we requested from the state, because we have a public health, we're still doing vaccination clinics, we're still doing testing. In addition, we have a home care agency, so we're out in the community. So where we're not a nursing home, we still are seeing vulnerable people. So we have our nurses working side by side with administrative staff and clerical staff. So we're still waiting for clarification. Are we in office or are we healthcare? And so hopefully when we get that clarification, we'll know better what to do. But for right now, we're not making any changes in our office. I'm happy to entertain any questions or provide any more information if there's something I missed.
Any questions from any members of the board? Any from the public? No, Janelle, thank you very much for such a thorough report. I will tell you, we all know the work ethic that Ryan Moore has, and I did receive a text from him that said all he would like to add on to that was that today we have 6 total people in Warren County with COVID, and it hasn't been that low since October 21st of last year. And again, just to echo a big thank you for all of your efforts in your departments.
Fingers crossed, and we only have 17 people in quarantine right now. So we're seeing those numbers go down. Very appreciative of that.
Perfect.
Thank you all.
Supervisor
report. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Fraser. Supervisor Garrity with Tourism Tax.
Yeah, thank you. We met twice on May 25th and June 3rd this past month. We have 2 resolutions in your packet, 228, which is a design web hosting production services, and then authorizing agreements with certain applications. Total amount is $387,000. And One other thing, as you may know, it looks like we're going to land ice castles to come in for a multi-month event in the wintertime at Wood Park and Lake George. So we're excited about that, and we're going to have more discussions on that next week. So that's my report.
Thank you.
Thank
Supervisor Hogan, Economic Growth and Development.
Thank you. I'm really not sure how to follow Janelle.
Yeah.
But thank you, Janelle, for all you've done for all of us. Economic Growth and Development met on May 24th. We have resolutions 205 through 208 and through Finance 241 and 242. I hope you'll support those. I'd like to take a moment right now to recognize the work that's still being done by the many task forces that are gathering mostly via Zoom still. There's the Economic Recovery Task Force, Hospitality, Workforce, Transportation. I know I'm missing housing, broadband. These are groups of dedicated volunteers throughout our communities that are continuing to devote time every week to solving these problems and offering solutions that collaboratively with the county and with public officials will move forward. And you're seeing those in some of these resolutions. So if any of you are listening, thank you very much for all of your continued efforts. And thank you to the supervisors who take time out of your busy lives to attend those meetings too. Other than the launch of the letterbox trail, which was the highlight of my month, and I encourage you all to partake in it. It's a great way to get to know our communities. The planning department's been incredibly busy preparing grants for all of our towns and the city. You're going to see some resolutions coming through budget, through economic growth and development. I think there's some other places that you're going to see them in support of these grants. I encourage you to reach out with any questions you might have, but let's move forward. This is a great way for us to leverage funding that's being made available at the state and federal level. So please, again, reach out to Wayne and his crew or to me with any questions, and have a good month, everybody.
Thank you. Supervisor Leggett, Criminal Justice.
Thank you, Chairwoman Seaver. On the first page of the board index, you will see from Resolution 200 to 2004, resolutions that came out of criminal justice. 2 are for the district attorney, 3 are for the public defender. The district attorney is asking to submit a grant to the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services for about $38,000. 201, they're amending a resolution. They need more storage space. This is something that was a repercussion from discovery and justice reform, and all of the items they need to keep a history of, an archive. So we're just giving them more room to be able to buy that storage up to $20,000. 2002, the public defender would like to execute an agreement not to exceed $320,436 part of their ILS grants. And public defender also wants to be able to contract with Queensbury Taxi for transportation for their clients. That's covered by ILS grants. Also, they need more office space. This is something that's been in progress for years. They have finally secured office space at 333 Glen, the big building downtown, not to exceed $12,000. This is also covered by ILS grants. I visited the space. It looks like it's going to work as far as space and security goes. And we did our best to keep them here on campus, but that wasn't a viable term at this point. Those are the resolutions before you. We appreciate your support on them. Also, I sit on the Industrial Development Authority of Warren and Washington counties. We just hired an executive director. This is the first time the IDA has had an executive director, but we have had a strong interest in the programs that the IDA offers with pilots, tax abatements of mortgage and sale, and bonding. And we have properties that need marketing and such. So just at last night's meeting, we were able to, or Monday's meeting, approve
hiring of a fellow with great qualifications, Michael Ostrander, and we welcome him to the community to help us out with our economic development efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor McGowan, tonight you have both county facilities as well as park operations and management as the third person in line for that committee.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we met May 25th. I have to say that I actually went up to Kevin tonight and said, Kevin, what do we have? I did go to 11 committee meetings and I kind of lost track of. We met on both for our buildings and grounds. Really, the only thing we had was a notice to intent to fill a cleaner position due to our termination. So we do not have a resolution for that. I think it was just fulfilling more of a clerical agenda there. And the other for the airport agenda, we just talked about the construction and the hangar construction and the and we viewed the pictures of that the new sweeper that the airport was able to get secured under a grant. So I have to say this is the first time I really don't have a resolution on the floor tonight, but I will thank you for your support for all the other ones. So thank you. That's my report.
Thank you. Supervisor Smith with Extension Service.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I'd like to again thank Ben as my co-chair because he's been able to plug in a lot for me. And I also would like to thank Andrea Hogan for her support on that team. The Cooperative Extension would like to thank the DPW for the work, the driveway work and the drainage. And also to announce that their plant sale was a success financially, and thank everybody here that took part in that. And they emptied out everything, I guess. And then they have a demand for in-person programming and it's growing rapidly. So that's all I have to offer. Thank you.
Thank you. And Supervisor Thomas, budget.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Budget Committee didn't meet. This hasn't met yet. However, on July 1st, after Finance, we will be having a meeting. And one of the topics of discussion will be the reserves that were established a couple of years ago. And some of them were depleted last year because of unknown revenue situations. And one will be for the planning department, and I think another one that needs discussion is also Countryside, and we'll be talking about the fund balance and the availability of dollars there and projects. A general discussion to entering into the 2022 budget season. So, and the other thing I'd like to mention is that tomorrow will be the first meeting of the Joseph Warren Center Steering Committee. Thank you for allowing me to be part of that, and I'm very excited about that. I think that's a great project for everybody. So, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Thomas, and thank you for saying yes to that. I failed to mention that both Supervisor Thomas and Supervisor Bruno are proudly serving on that as representatives of the Warren County Board. So thank you for that. Our next report is a report from our county administrator. And I will say at this time, I'd like to ask Tammy DiLorenzo, who is an assistant to our county administrator, to provide a brief report on behalf of Administrator Moore, and also thank everyone on Administrator Moore has a lengthy delegation task list that I appreciate him putting together, and it's been very helpful over these two periods of leave, and it's a great team effort. And Tammy, if you wouldn't mind giving the report.
Absolutely. Good evening.
So first, I have the honor of announcing the employee anniversaries for the month. Jamie Smith from Countryside Adult Home is celebrating 20 years of service. And Pascal Gerard, AKA Rocky, from the Sheriff's Department is celebrating 30 years of service. We want to thank you very much for your many, many years of service to Warren County. Prior to Ryan going out to enjoy his much-deserved time with his family, he did convene a department head meeting on June 4th. In that meeting, we discussed leadership training. We want to thank Jackie and Liza for spearheading that effort. We went over the 2020 year end and thanked department heads for their efforts in contributing to the deficit reduction plan, which had a significant positive impact on the 2020 results, and thank the board for them approving that plan as well. We discussed the CSEA contract, went over some stimulus guidelines and encouraged department head input, and the budget preparation that will begin in July. In addition, I will report just briefly on COVID. In the 24 years I've worked with Janelle, she is nothing but thorough. So I have very little to add other than one of the most important things is share food can now return. So Sam's candy dish is back out on our counter.
Yay.
Again, in meeting our 70%, according to the CDC, Warren County still leads the pack in vaccination rates, but we can always do more. So please encourage people to use the Aviation Mall site or get in touch directly with public health to get a shot. In addition to that, I know Ryan sent out an email. I'll let you read the rest of his bullet points there. I will just share this email went out to department heads just in his words. I continue to be proud of the way our workforce responded to keep each other safe for the past 15 months. Thanks to each and every one of you for your leadership. So thank you.
Thank you. A report by our acting county attorney.
Good evening. Since the last board meeting, I've attended the committee meetings that have taken place. I also work with outside counsel where they're representing the county on several matters that way. And one thing I'd like to mention that's unique about the county attorney's office is that we are charged by statute by the Family Court Act with being the presentment agency for the juvenile delinquency cases, meaning that the county attorney's office is the one charged with being the prosecutor for those cases. And presently, we have around 15 juvenile delinquency cases that are active in Warren County Family Court. And another thing unique about the county attorney's office is that we also represent the Office of Community Services, Warren, Washington County's Office of Community Services, which provides mental health services for people who are residents in Warren and Washington counties. And as a representative, the council, the attorneys for that office, we also bring forth the assisted outpatient treatment cases, abbreviated as AOT sometimes. And those are cases where the Office of Community Services seeks to have compulsory mental health treatment for certain individuals with mental health problems. It's a court order made by the court. It's a one-year duration order, and it compels the individual to participate in treatment like outpatient mental health treatment, counseling, therapy, medication, and such like that. And the county attorney's office is unique in that we are the ones who are charged with, again, bringing those cases forward to court on behalf of the Office of Community Services. And as acting county attorney, I'm available to any of the supervisors. Feel free to telephone me anytime you want. Stop in and see us in our office. If you have any questions, feel free to stop by or telephone me. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point in time, could I please ask for the reading of communications?
Sure. We've received Capital District Regional Off-Track Betting Corp. April 2021 surcharge payment in the amount of $2,988 and the 2020 Regional Benefit Distribution Installments number 11 in the amount of $2,408 and 12 and 13 each in the amount of $1,631.
Thank you. We'll move on to the reading of resolutions.
Resolution numbers 198 through 250 were distributed to the Board of Supervisors and posted to the Warren County website on Friday, June 11th, which met the distribution deadline specified in the rules of the board. Our four floor resolutions in your packets. These were not approved by committee, and a waiving of the rules will be required to consider those.
Thank you. May I have a motion to waive the rules for these? That motion is made by Supervisor Bruno, seconded by Supervisor McGowan. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That motion carries. Thank you.
A motion is now needed to bring the floor resolutions to the floor.
Okay, Ms. Allen, may I do them as a group or individually?
Certainly.
Without objection, I'd like a motion to bring to the floor resolutions 1 through 4. That motion is made by Supervisor Bramer, seconded again by Supervisor McGowan. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstained? That motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, floor resolution number 1 is now resolution number 251. Floor resolution number 2 is now resolution 252. Floor resolution number 3 is now resolution 253. And floor resolution number 4 is now resolution 254. Resolution numbers 252 and 253 will be subject to roll call votes.
Thank you. Okay, we'll first move on to our discussion of resolution by supervisors, then we'll open it up for a discussion of resolutions by our public. During our committee reports, Supervisor Bramer, you indicated you wanted to talk during the resolution period.
Yes, thank you very much, Chairwoman. So what I would like to talk about is the Septic Initiative that I have been trying to work on for a couple of years. It was first brought to us, I want to say, beginning of 2019 by one of the individuals related to a lake association group in the northern part of our county. And I know that everyone on this board wants to protect our water quality and definitely wants to protect the residents and our tourists throughout the county from the negative impacts of leaking septic systems, whether it be directly on our water bodies or maybe not quite so much on our water bodies, but still possible to have an impact on people in their private homes. And I know that everyone here has good intentions. And I say that because I did attend the Lake George Town Board meeting on Monday night. They had a resolution on their agenda to talk about this. And I kind of made my pitch about why I thought this was important. And one of the town board members, after I got done speaking, said, of course, we all want to protect our water quality. That's not a question here. And it's not about politics. It's not about, up county versus down county. It should be about what is the best that we can do as a county for our residents and frankly for our economy here as well. And we as a county have taken the lead before, and I think we should here as well. We have spent a lot of time and money and effort behind, I'm going to give you the example of the boat inspection stations. We got out ahead of the state and did that and put a lot of money towards doing so. And we need to put that kind of support and effort behind this initiative as well. I know that some of our towns have made a lot of progress. Queensbury has already passed their septic inspection rule with the leadership of Supervisor Strowl on that initiative. And it did take them a while, but it got passed through and it's working very well. From the information that I know from their superintendent there, Dave Hatton, 80% of the systems are failing. They have some problem with them, but most of them they're able to fix with a relatively inexpensive method, whether it's leveling their D box or some other thing like that. But it is making a difference and improving the septic systems for the homeowners as well as for our water quality there in the town of Queensbury. Bolton, as we know, also has a program. There are other towns like Chester and Horicon where the town boards are trying to pass or have passed or trying to enforce laws, but it's falling a little bit short. And some towns like Lake George have a voluntary program, but as we know, voluntary is definitely different from mandatory where we are requiring people to do something. So I think that while Lake George is great, the town, and they have a lot of resources, they have great staff there with Dan Baruch, not every town has those kind of resources available to them. So again, I think that this is something that should be taken up by the county. It's very important and it's very important work. I talked to Dave Wick earlier this week about it. I've talked to him before and I said to him, Dave, just tell me, is this a good idea or a bad idea? And he said he personally is 100% behind the county going forward with a county inspection law. And frankly, whatever data we get out of it will help them move forward with whatever they're doing at the county. Because I know there's an effort around the county to say, well, the park commission should really be doing the inspections or doing this or that. They should be the ones having the regulations. That's fine, but A, it's going to take a while. And B, that only covers Lake George. We have other really important water bodies throughout the county. So anyway, I know you guys don't want to hear me go droning on and on about this, and I don't want to get into the weeds, but I am willing to work on this. I have been working on this for 2 years. I've talked to realtors. I've talked to Lake Association people. I've talked to town boards. I've talked to town supervisors. I've talked to town code enforcement officers. I've talked to our code enforcement officer. I've talked to the county attorney. I've talked to people all over the place. And I am certainly willing to compromise. I'm willing to find solutions to the problems that may be brought up. And I'm willing to come up with a whole new program. I really want to make something work here, make it workable. But there needs to be an avenue for this to happen, dialogue to exist at the county level, and the whole Board of Supervisors to be engaged and have an avenue for them to be engaged. So what I would like to do today is to make a motion to form a special committee that has as its purpose presenting a septic proposal to the Board of Supervisors at our next workshop, whenever that may be called.
Supervisor McGowan?
I'm more than happy to second that. If I might add on,
Supervisor McGowan, if you don't mind, at this point in time, what we really should be adhering to is a motion to waive the rules. And then we can move to a motion to form a special committee if that's the intent. And then I will certainly ask both Supervisor Bramer to present that and for you to second it and make your comments regarding it. Would that be acceptable?
That's more than acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion to waive our rules?
I'll make that motion.
That is made by
Chairwoman.
Supervisor Bramer, seconded by Supervisor Beatty. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That motion carries. Thank you very much. Now for your motion, Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you, Chairwoman. A motion to form a special committee for the purpose of making a recommendation to the full board regarding a septic program or law.
Is there a second? Supervisor McGowan? That motion is seconded. Now it's up for discussion. As promised, Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've followed Claudia in doing this, and I just want to applaud you for all the hard work that you've put in. I know it's been very hard and a lot of work. And so this past couple of weeks, I've been talking amongst, the other towns, but Dave Wick, I had to talk to him about some matters, and I started with him, and that really opened up a lot of dialogue. And I asked Dave, would you be willing to join forces with the county? He's been working on this, and he feels that it's probably going to take 3 years for him to get to where he has. But with the county and what we can do, and as a teamwork, and in joining all together, I think we could pull this together a lot quicker than the Lake George Park Commission. I've also talked with Dan up in Lake George. He's willing. Charlie in our building department is willing to get together. And with Dave Hatton, I actually talked to today on another matter and brought it up. And he is willing, with all permission from Supervisor Stroud, he could come in and help us out, since you've really initiated quite a plan. There's a lot of work involved in doing this and pulling it together. But I think it's the most important topic that we really should be working on, especially with the algae blooms that we've had, and with the warmer weather. We're going to have them again, and we have to protect everything and all our natural resources around us. So I just wanted to add that on, and also to thank you, Claudia, for Supervisor Bramer, for everything that you've done, and I would like to be on that team with you.
Thank you. Further discussion. Supervisor Leggett, then Supervisor Wild, then Supervisor Thomas.
Thank you, Chairwoman Sieber. Definitely Supervisor Bramer has put a lot of work in this and bringing it forward, and it's been brought up in front of committee for consideration and has not made out of committee. I would hope that this is something that could have gone back into committee and we stick with our regular committee structure and movement. I support the effort of the septic inspection because the town of Chester has had on the books for a long time a septic inspection pond transfer ordinance that does have some problems. And I think a small town like ours could help with the greater awareness that a countywide would have. And having reviewed the proposed local law, I could see where there's a few modifications that could be made to make it agreeable to most, if not all, in communities within the Warren County, because it does have the provision in it that any town can opt out if they do not want to participate in it. It does have the support of the lake associations within our town, and it is has a lot of common sense of proposals to it. I'm just a little guarded about the idea of it going out for any particular special committee at this time. I do think it could be worth a workshop where we look at it and do any tweaks to it. I'm just, like I say, guarded about being in favor of this, doing what seems like it would be an end run around our committee structure and what that might do overall. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Wild.
Madam Chair, thank you. My only comment is that we can't discriminate against all the other water bodies in the county and the tributaries to these water bodies. It should be across the board, all water bodies.
Amen.
It's not going to be easy to do. I understand that, but we can't just focus on Lake George and forget about the other water bodies in the county. We need to do the whole thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Thomas.
Yeah, my comment is that I kind of echo what Supervisor Leggett said. I think Supervisor Bramer has put a lot of effort into this, a lot of work into this. It's not unneeded, you know, but it affects different towns different ways. But with the opt-out, if that stays in there, you know, that's a positive to me. But again, I echo what Supervisor Liggett's saying. I think we have a committee, you know, we have environmental concerns. This is an environmental concern. I don't understand why we have to have a task force. I think it just needs to go through the committee and come out of the committee. We just did a sewer feasibility study in Stony Creek, just for the Hamlet area, and the estimated cost of a sewer system, or recommended sewer system collection and treatment, was $11 million. I can tell you Stony Creek doesn't have $11 million. And there's two, you know, pretty good size, they're not streams, they're not rivers, but they're good sized creeks. And, you know, that's going to affect those people. And it could definitely be a problem with the Department of Health regulations that are in place today. Somebody's going to run into a major problem there. And, so that's my comment.
Thank you. I see Supervisor Stroud, then Supervisor Smith, and we'll see if anyone else has another comment on the first round. And then I see Supervisor McGowan in a second round. So Supervisor Stroud.
Thank you. Yes, getting the property transfer law passed in the town of Queensbury was not an easy process. And by the way, it does apply to all water bodies because it applies to a certain type of zoning, waterfront residential. But we had public meetings where two things happened at these public meetings. One is a lot of discovery. In other words, what do we know? And what should we know? And we had to explain septic systems because surprisingly, there's a lot of people that do not understand their septic system, let alone where it's located or how old it is. They just don't know. But to explain the septic system explain the enhanced septic systems, explain the purpose of the law, and also to take input from the public. We did amend our law based on the input that we got from the public to make it more palatable for them. So I think before you do anything, you need to have a public presence involved, a very public presence. So, you know, we invited Hudson River people and Glen Lake people and Lake Sunnyside people and Lake George people, and we had meetings that addressed the, you know, to listen to their concerns and address them where we could. So the success of this, like Queensborough, is an outreach program to educate the public and get feedback from the public on this. Then you can go to a task force with some information that you need to have before this goes any further. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Smith.
I don't want to see this come out of committee because I don't think our committee's had enough time to really research enough. I had asked our zoning administrator, who's been there a long time. In fact, we're losing him unfortunately, but we went through that packet with a fine tooth comb on Friday. And we have two lake associations. We have Scroon Lake, East Shore Drive, and we have the Brant Lake. We have a pretty good program going, and obviously we don't have all our nuts and bolts together, but we're working on it. I think, as John said, the public needs to be part of it. You need to listen to them. You need to explain to them all the different types of septics. And all we're hearing is Lake George, Lake George. We're not Lake George. Even though we all have the same goal to protect our lakes, we all have that same goal, but we may have to look at it differently in the smaller towns. And we also need to listen to those lake associations. When you talk to our people up there between ESLA and Brant Lake Association, you got half of them saying one thing and half of them saying something else. So let's get them all together as well. You know, talk to those zoning administrators that are in the smaller towns that are dealing with those lakes and the septics on those lakes. We haven't got enough information. And I listened to Dennis Dickerson, who is an engineer. We got a lot of feedback from him, and there were pros and cons. And yes, he said, this is something we need, and there's a lot of work to do with it, but there is a lot of work to do with it. And I don't think it's time to take it out to a task force, and maybe with people that don't even have any idea what it's like to be on the lakes and run a town that are on the lakes. So that's my comments.
Thank you. Supervisor Bramer, you have not spoken in this first round. I know you just raised your hand. Was there someone else I missed? No, Supervisor McGowan is round two.
Okay, thank you. I definitely hear what Supervisor Stroud and Supervisor Smith are saying about more public input. It's my understanding that Supervisor Dickinson is not, well, I wouldn't say willing, but he is not intending to put this on to the agenda anytime soon. So, you know, there's no other avenue for the board, the body of this Board of Supervisors to have public meetings unless we have a committee. And I frankly think that it's important that we pull this out of the committee, the environmental committee, so that it can be talked about on its own. It's going to take work. It's going to take dedication and time for the public to talk to us, to hear from the public, and for us to work through these issues in a public way. And it's not at a board meeting. And no one wants to sit here at 6 o'clock at night in a full board meeting, go through this. I don't understand the hesitation about a special committee when we know it's still going to come back to the full board for a workshop. And those special committee meetings will be open to the public. And Supervisor Smith, I hear what you're saying about the town supervisors needing to be on that committee. So absolutely, let's make it 7 people. That'll certainly ensure that there are more than just at-large supervisors on that committee.
Supervisor Smith, I'll have you in the second round after Supervisor McGowan.
May I haven't spoken.
Of course, Supervisor Garrity.
Madam, I guess my problem, I know this is very important, and I guess I don't understand why we can't have the discussion in committee. I don't understand. One person doesn't. How many people are on that committee?
5.
5. I don't know why one person can hold up discussion on this. I mean, I think it's an important issue. Now, unfortunately, I don't have lakes up on the Echo Lake, and there are people starting to live around that. But we have the rivers that are important, and so I just think we as a board should do get the public input. I mean, we're trying to do it with certain folks on a committee. I just don't understand. I just don't understand why we say it can't come out of committee and have discussion. I don't understand that. Sorry, I don't.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And as we've learned from our Roberts Rules training as chair, I do have an opportunity to make a comment as we debate things in front of us, but the suggestion was to make sure that I do it last. So before our next round of comments, I just want to say that we do create committees from time to time. And in this particular circumstance, our committees at the beginning of the year were requested to be smaller so that we could all focus on issues. And I found an old committee list where we had 20 plus committees. So I do think we're all incredibly busy. And again, I value your time, but I think that's one of the issues that we're having with environmental concerns and real property, especially during this time of year as it starts to get very busy. And for the record, we have had over a course of a year and a half, this discussed in committee, but it was also discussed in government ops and advocacy where local laws are made, and then hit back over to environmental again. I did have a wonderful discussion with Supervisor Dickinson and his board on Monday night regarding this, and he has committed to me that he would like to work on this committee and work with Claudia Bramer, Supervisor Bramer, and other members, not just those that are running towns that are affected by lakes, but those with water bodies. And I really would make that argument that we all fall into that category. And as a county with our county legislative hats on, we should be focused about the entire county. And the only way to fully have that discussion, which is extra time and extra work, as we've heard with many of the other things that we're looking at, and I appreciate that, is by doing a special committee. I am not opposed to a special committee, but I would like to see if there was an opportunity. Supervisor Dickinson did ask about this being on a workshop. Our last real property meeting, we were lacking a couple supervisors due to prior commitments, and our meetings go long. But I think it's important at the workshop, which is not scheduled per the rules of the board until September, I believe. And certainly we could have, as Supervisor Strauss suggested, and I think it's a good one, that public hearing or public information. Perhaps we schedule that right before our workshop so that we can have a presentation or in conjunction with that also informs our public and puts us as a board in a position to vote on a proposed resolution, perhaps in October, but it moves us forward. And with that said, those were my comments regarding this, and I'd like to go and honor both Supervisor McGowan and Supervisor Smith in a second comment, unless anyone else who has not spoken would like to be heard on this issue. Supervisor Beatty.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Getting the public involved is vital. When there's serious discussion on the airport runway, $12 million, the destroying of environmental land and so forth, we held 3 public meetings, of which we had anywhere from 125 to 175 people attend. Now, you can't get 125 people to attend if you're handing out $50 bills, unless it's something that hammers home and is important to them. I believe our lakes and our mountains make Warren County the best county in the state. And if we can't make significant strides to protect that, shame on us. Now, does that mean a special committee? Maybe. Does that mean a lot of input from the public? You're darn right. Does that mean a collaboration and maybe some compromise here and there? But at the end of the day, if we can't protect our streams and our lakes, the property values will go down the tank, the tourists will stop coming, and we as a county will be just a mere figment of our imagination of yesteryear. So I implore the supervisors on this board to start being more proactive and not say, well, it's got to go through a committee or this and that. Hey, let's get the public involved. Let's call some evening public meetings. Let's advertise them. Let's do what we need to do. But if we can get over 200 to 300 people to show up for airport runways, and the taxpayer dollars, I'm sure as heck people are going to come out of the woodworks to voice their opinion, and we should hear them. And so if that information goes to a special committee, or the environmental committee is then open to at least hearing it and so forth, instead of voting it down all the time, well, so be it. But I agree with everyone here, their comments. I think they're well thought out. And let's be more proactive now and save what we have here in Warren County, which is, again, I think, the best county in the state of New York. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, so hearing no further comment at this point in time, I have Supervisor McGowan, then Supervisor Smith, and Supervisor Leggett.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. I am full for, the committee, but also, the special task force. But I don't sit on the environmental committee, but I did attend that meeting and I think it's really important. And yes, that day we're a little thin on support on getting it out of the committee, getting it passed to have it. But the whole point is we got to keep this moving forward. And form this was the importance of why I was looking for the task force to bring that in. But if we could do that and bring them in to our committee and really keep this dialogue all moving forward as we wait for our workshop to come in September and bring in the public, I also think would be a phenomenal idea. So thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Smith.
I just wanted to mention that I did not say supervisors had to be on that. I said we should get input from the zoning administrators that deal with those septics every day of the week. The supervisors really aren't the ones that are going through all the nits and grits of the septics. We oversee it, and yeah, our boards in the towns have to, anything that goes out of their board comes back to our board. But I think those people that deal with that, we maybe need to hear from. They can give us presentations right here so that we understand a little bit more about what the different kind of septic systems are. Like John said, how far they have to be from a lake, how far they have to be from a well. What can you do? Are there holding tanks? No, there's no holding tanks anymore. There's all kinds of things to deal with. People don't understand that. I mean, I've learned a bundle of it just this year. And before that, I went to everything I could about zoning because that was my weakest point on, the board as a town board member. So, we can have presentations. Our committee, there were 3 people there. So obviously, 2 of us had 2 different thoughts, and Claudia was on her knees by my chair saying, are you going to vote yes for it? Well, no, I want to listen to what Dennis has to say. I want to talk to my zoning administrator after we got the packet to find out more about it before I can give an intelligent response or answer to what we're going to do, And when Dennis says we're not ready in the county, and I got to go back home and think about, okay, what are we not ready about? Let me talk to Matt Simpson, who was there prior to me in the previous talks about this. I can't make a decision like that because somebody gets on their knees and says, vote yes. There were 3 of us. So I don't think to take it out of committee yet is the way to go. It really isn't. We haven't had an opportunity with 5 members on that committee to talk about it. We've only had 3 at a time. So, that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Leggett?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I was on a Zoom call the other day with a member from the Adirondack Association of Towns and Villages and the Local Government Review Board discussing about septic at transfer law, because it is a huge issue across the whole Adirondack Park. When you look at it, we are not unique. We are a small part of a very large whole when it comes to this. And it looks like Warren County is leading the way on developing a good unified system of ensuring septic systems are not in failure and that there is a way to implement them. So the way we move forward is going to set the pace and the place for other counties within the Adirondacks. The suggestions that have come out from this discussion tonight are all solid. And I think we're all agreed that more public input from a very wide range of stakeholders is very important, because at the heart of it, we're developing a local law. And as legislators, we need to be very mindful of our constituents and all that are involved in this local law. So having their voice heard first is quite necessary. I support any effort that does get out there in front of all of the lake associations, and as Supervisor Smith had thrown out ESLA, that's East Shore Schoon Lake Association, and we have Friends Lake Property Owners Association, Moon Lake Park District Association. We also have Supervisor Smith and I share with the Schoon Lake, the Schoon Lake Association and Schoon Lake Park Commission as well. So there's all of these bodies that need to be involved in this. And I think it's a process that's worth taking a very deliberate, open, and steady course towards a definite end of ensuring environmental protection that sets an example across the board. Before us today is also $320,000 or $340,000 for assistance with folks in the Lake George Basin. Some of us would say, why would they need assistance? There's a lot of money in that basin. Can't they afford their own? We look at other towns that have water bodies that do not have people that might be quite as affluent. What about help and assistance on remedying these? That could be all part of this whole package as well to make it work. Again, I'll say I'm not in favor of taking this out of committee. If there was discussion with Supervisor Dickinson on Monday, perhaps he is favorable to the idea of having the working group come out of that committee. I don't sit on that committee, but I want to help out on that. Local laws perhaps coming out of government ops, perhaps folks from the government ops committee could join in, and any other committee members, those on environmental concerns and planning, not environmental concerns, excuse me, economic development and planning as well. This is a cross-cutting subject right here. And again, to iterate, we are dealing with creating local laws. We need to be very mindful of how they are done and what the burden will be on our constituents when they get put into place, as well as the burden upon county government when they're put into place. And I think we can pull that all together successfully. Thanks.
Thank you. And at this point, certainly Supervisor Bramer, and just as a reminder, our rules do allow us, with the discretion of the chair, two rounds of discussion. We really do try to keep that to about 10 minutes a person max. And so perhaps Supervisor Bramer, after your comment, we may call a vote if no one objects. But Supervisor Bramer?
I will be very quick. I'm glad that Supervisor Leggett thinks we can get it done. I agree with him. It is a very cross-cutting issue. That's why I think a special committee is really important, to make sure we pull together all these different people and do it in a deliberate, open process. I will say again, it has been 2 years. Last year, I brought this up when I was chair of Environmental Concerns Committee, and I will remind those people who were not on the committee, because we have lots of new members, that we have had presentations in the committee room from both the Realtors Association of Southern Adirondacks, as well as our own county planning department. And there have been lots of discussions about the proposal. And for everyone's reminder, it was brought up immediately in January at the beginning of the year. We're now in June. It's been 6 months. So I cannot force people to look at their packets in advance of, for 6 months. But I do think it's really important to have public input. And I saw a gentleman over here with his hand up, and I think we should hear from the public since that's so important.
Supervisor Bramer, and certainly we value the public's comment, and I without objection at this point in time, if you want to hear from public comment as it relates to this topic, if any supervisors do not object, I would certainly welcome the gentleman who indicated he would like to be heard. Is that fine?
Yeah.
Okay, sir, would you come to the podium, please, and state your name?
I'm trying to be pretty eloquent about this. I just heard a comparison to the boat wash. Okay. And I can tell you, I'm a person who has had their fishing boat checked about 250 times. I'm going to go back as a non-governmental person. The boat wash was a one-size-fit-all that did not get the input from local people. I can tell you, in 2019, they put boat wash people at Hinckley Reservoir. They checked 7 boats the whole year. I have been at places from Tupper Lake, Lower Saranac, all of these places. They put a boat wash station at the boat launch at Tupper Lake. Nobody used it. So then they moved it to Second Pond, and anybody in that big area, if they want to have their boat washed, they got to go to Second Pond. What it was is they didn't get input from the people who had a vested interest to say, nobody uses that boat launch. Having 2 kids at the boat launch at Lower St. Regis, and they checked 4 or 5 boats, one of which was mine in and out that whole day. There's nobody there. So when you go to look at your different things as a government entity that wants to have input all through your towns, you should go to the experts, like the gal back there said. Go to your zoning people. Ask them what they see. Ask them what they're doing before the workshops and everything else. Go to the experts. There is kids and people all over New York State at boat launches that sat there all day in a chair with no covers over their head and checking no boats. And they'll tell you, we didn't pull a weed off a trailer for a whole month because it's not something that's an issue at this lake. And believe me, I've been to 15, 18 of them already this year. My boat's been checked. But what it came down to is lack of local input from people who really understand the resources. And I have to pay for this. That's the other thing. I'm at all of this. I buy fishing licenses and all of the stuff that goes with it. And it's great. Get my boat checked, everything else, or go to a place and the people leave early, all of these different things, but they didn't get local input. That's why something that started as a great idea to protect Lake Champlain and what was going on there and protect Lake George from that spread out throughout the state. And hundreds of thousands of dollars are being spent and they don't do anything. And you see the statistics that come out and they'll say, oh, we found weeds on 47 trailers. The weeds came from the box that when you put your boat in, it's the same lake. The kids don't clean the boxes out. So then sure enough, they go on your trailer wheels, but they didn't get input. Go ahead and talk to the people that are experts in the communities and then start your workshops and everything else. They know there's people that you can bring in, people who service septic systems and all of that. And the reason why I want to say something is I ended up having to administer a state on Glen Lake. It was right after the law came in Queensbury. I want to tell you something. As an executive, a person who died and trying to figure out what was underground and trying to work with realtors and trying to figure out what was going on. And we were one of the first properties sold over there. It was a nightmare. There was no input. There wasn't things that we needed. I didn't know. It was a friend of mine who died. I didn't know what was under the ground. And I couldn't get answers and couldn't deal with people who wanted to buy the house. And we couldn't even locate it. And we tried. So I've seen it from both ways, but please go to the experts in those communities, get information back, and then work with the taxpayers, the people that have a real vested interest. It's their properties, you know, and use the example of the boat wash stations. I want to tell you, most of them aren't doing anything. And the people that are there will tell you that, because you can see it. You can also see that after a certain time in the summer, there is even nobody there. And they just, well, we ran out of people. Well, it really wasn't that important. You don't have any people to administer them. And, you know, if they listened locally, they probably would have changed that and saved taxpayers a lot of money. They would have said to, you know, nobody ever launches their boat on Hinckley Reservoir. They go down to the campground. So we really don't need somebody to sit here for 4 months and check 7 boats.
Sir,
Okay, thank
no, it's fine. First, your name for the record.
George Gedney.
Thank you, Mr. Gedney.
I've seen the septic issue because I had to
Right.
sell a house.
Sure.
And then I also see how we just
I know.
seemingly waste tons of money of taxpayers' money because we didn't get expert. And there are a lot of septic companies around
Right.
here, and most of the people in the building departments, because I am in the construction industry,
Right.
they know their stuff inside now.
Mr. Gedney, and we so appreciate that, and I certainly welcome you to also stay for the privilege of the floor and discussion about resolutions. This resolution before us right now is as it relates to septic, but it is very important to all of us, and I appreciate the time that is being spent on it. So before us right now, we have a resolution to form a special committee. With that special committee, sir, I see you, and I promise, let me just get out what the resolution is, and if the board doesn't object to another public comment, it's a little untraditional, but this is such an important topic. And again, it kind of speaks to the fact that we really would like these discussions to go on in committee, but we're so happy to have the public here and engage in it, and want to continue to your point, Mr. Gedney, how important it is to engage the public. So this special committee that would be formed, my committee as chairwoman to you, and putting those people, members of our board on it, would make sure that we do represent, as Supervisor Leggett pointed out, members from environmental, members from government ops and advocacy, members from planning, members, the relevant members of those. They can pick whoever they want on them, and I can work with them to make sure we have it fully represented. But it does sound like a very important issue that requires a lot of public info, and we could charge them prior to our board workshop with holding committees, public engagement, and preparing something to propose at that workshop, which won't take place until September. And without objection, there is one gentleman who really would like to be heard, and I would like to afford him that same opportunity if there is not an objection. Thank you, sir. If you would come to the microphone and please state your name. Thank you for your patience.
My name is Dennis Fredette. I have a house on Glen Lake, and I'm very interested in this issue. I want to start by saying I agree with everything that that gentleman just said, but there's more to say. There's another way, another part of the issue that I want to talk about, and that is, when are you gonna get it done? I hear you talking about, we're going to do it this way, we should do it that way. I don't care how you do it. I live on Glen Lake. There are sewers leak. There's sewer going into the lake, and I know it. And we have the SUNY Adirondack data. So I don't care how you do it, and I want you to do it thoroughly. I want you to talk to the public. It's really important. All of those things you said, but when are you going to get it done? Are you going to go serial? Okay, we'll do this little thing. Then we'll do this little thing. Then we'll do that little thing. Have a committee. Have a committee that focuses, that gets everybody together and does it now. Not 3 years from now. Do it now. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Fredette. And in the spirit of doing it now, I would like to call a vote on this. I see your hand is up, Supervisor Wild. You have not spoken twice. If you, please.
Madam Chair, thank you. I'll be very quick about this. And my concern about going forward with this vote is that Supervisor Dickinson isn't here to defend himself in terms of how or whether or not he could approach this. And I think I can't vote for this until I hear from Supervisor Dickinson.
Thank you. And again, I did make an opportunity to speak with Supervisor Dickinson in advance of the meeting on Monday night, and would not even imagine to speak on his behalf. But I do think that he definitely has been talking about this issue for the last year and a half. So I know we all have a constitutional right to debate, and I do not want to take that away from anyone here. And again, it's such an important topic. Supervisor Diamond, you have not spoken, and Supervisor Garrity, did you have your hand up or your?
Well, I was just going to ask you a question. but-
I'll go Supervisor Diamond first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I understand the frustration that Supervisor Bramer is going through. She's been bringing this topic up for almost 2 years. I find it very puzzling, and I agree with Supervisor Garrity, is how can one individual just stop the process in the committee? This is something that's been very passionately talked about. We've heard multiple conversations today on how we're going to address it. But 2 years, Supervisor Bramer's been bringing up, nothing's happened. I don't see any harm at all in forming this committee to start the process and then bringing it back to the environmental committee for additional review, but it's getting the process going. It's starting the mechanism to make a change. And we're just not getting it done now. So I will support that resolution being put on the table today by Supervisor Bramer, just to get the process moving.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Garrity, did you still have a?
Yeah, I had a
comment?
question. I'm just disappointed to hear that we can't get it through a normal committee. And if that's what I'm understanding, then I will support a special committee to do it. I'm listening to these gentlemen, about the boat wash, but I'm also listening about it is a concern. So, I didn't want to go to another committee. I'd rather see the right committee do their job. And I guess if the people on that committee don't see fit to tackle this, I know a lot of the communities, some of the communities have already done a good part of this, and I will support a special committee if that's what it's going to take. There again, I'm disappointed. I've tried to reach Supervisor Dickinson today, and I've not been able to get through to him. So, did he indicate that he would? But if this is a fail-safe, then so be it.
Again, I don't want to speak for Supervisor Dickinson, but I will share with you, I think that he believes this is an important issue both to the lake and to the entire county. But as we all know, between COVID and responsibilities of every member on this board, perhaps that's more of what the issue is. Regardless, Robert's Rules does allow us to create special committees for very important topics that will provide members that are willing and able to put the time in to work collaboratively. And I really would like to call the voting if that's okay. But again, I'm not going to cut off our constitutional right to debate.
No, that's fine.
Supervisor Driscoll.
Thank you. Just one quick question. We're talking about forming a committee. We've done that the last couple of months with special committees for various important topics. I agree with Supervisor Smith that it shouldn't be just supervisors. I think we need to involve representatives from zoning and other individuals, possibly from the public that have a vested interest and are experiencing the reason for this committee on a daily basis. So.
Supervisor Driscoll, very good point. And I would hope that this special committee would do exactly that, bring in the experts, talk to those, and continue that collaboration both with the experts and with the community. Supervisor Bruno.
Well, now, my understanding that this special committee, task force, call it what you want, would take their product, their work, their results, and go back to environmental concerns. So come through that committee, or no? Was that how's this going to get to the board?
Yeah, I think the charge would be hopefully back to the full board and a workshop, which we do have scheduled. This is on an agenda to have a workshop but it's not, again, for several months. So it would give you a few months to really work on this. And then we won't be able to take action at that workshop, but we will be able to hear what that result is of all those months of hard work with the experts, supervisors, and public. And then, hopefully you could present that at the October board meeting for full board vote. or joint committee meeting, however the special committee decides to maybe work through that process.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. So at this point, I would like to then amend or I'd like to see if Supervisor Bramer is agreeable to amend her motion to state the number of committee members, and then whether or not it's a temporary committee that would dissolve after the workshop, or if you would like to have that committee, if the board would like to have that committee extended until the end of the year. How
I
many
think
members?
7 members
Okay,
and till the end of the year.
till the end of the year. And the second on that, I believe, was Supervisor McGowan. Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay. Without further discussion or objection, Supervisor Thomas?
Will these meetings be advertised and so everybody knows that they're happening? Because I've seen in the past where we've had these type of committees
Yes.
and the meetings happen and,
Mhm.
you know, okay,
Right. But
nobody knows about it.
yeah, that's a very good point, Supervisor Thomas. This is not a task force meeting. This is not a work group. This would be a special committee and would have to adhere to the open meeting laws.
Thank you.
That being said, at this point, I'd like to do a roll call vote. Ms. Allen?
Sure. This is the vote on the motion to create a special committee for presenting a septic proposal to the Board of Supervisors at their next workshop meeting. We'll have 7 members and the committee would be in effect till the end of the year. Let's see, Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
No.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
No,
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
No.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
No.
Ms. Smith?
No.
Hogan is absent. Chairwoman Sieber,
Yes.
the motion passes with 655 votes in favor.
Thank you, and thank you for the extended time on that topic here today. I'd like to move on.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm
I just needed to note that now that resolution waiving the rules for that is resolution number 255. And then this resolution creating the special committee is 256.
All right. Are there discussions, requests for discussion on other resolutions before you this evening? Supervisor Leggett, what resolution?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Number 250, enacting local law number 5 of 2021. I just have a couple questions on page 6 of 19. Start with bottom of page 5 of 19, section 12, future employment. There was a time limit given under 12A and 12B, but no time limit under 12C, where it says no Warren County officer or employee at any time after serving as Warren County officer or employee may represent or render services to a private person or organization in connection with any particular transaction in which he or she personally and substantially participated while serving as a Warren County officer or employee. It makes me think that no time after serving, that constitutionally, can we impose something on a private citizen? They're no longer under our ethics things. And so that was one question. Then,
Do you want me to answer that one real quick?
let me just throw in the
Okay,
other one.
sure.
Maybe they can both be done.
Sure.
On B, it said in the middle of it there, may represent or render services to a private person or organization in connection with any matter involving the exercise of discretion before the Warren County Board. I was wondering if we could have an example of what that would be, because we know we get down into the nitty gritty on the local laws. And when it says exercise of discretion, what does that mean? And in C, where it says he or she personally and substantially participated while serving as a Warren County officer or employee. So those two items, if there could be some clarification.
Sure. Supervisor Leggett, I know I can answer one very clearly, and then the other two, I will certainly defer to our legal counsel to answer in further detail. But the first one, as it relates to section 12, subsection A, that has appeared in our local law for as far back as I went, looking at the different ethics laws that we have had. I do know that the committee of the work group that we got together with supervisors and with staff, and then of course the extensive review that's been done on it, what we did discover was that was part of not only the state law, but it was part of some of the recommendations that they had for ethics policies and procedures that would be out of the 60 some that we looked at, that was consistent in almost every single one of them. For A. So that's where A came from, and wanted to stay as consistent with that as possible, given the appearance and the other committee and the other policies. But I also let, of course, our counsel speak a little further to that, and if anyone else wants to expand upon that answer. But as it relates to B and C, the definitions of discretion and substantially, County Attorney Twilliger, would you like to talk a little bit more and answer those questions, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. On B, for example, with number B, that's a case, it's the case, a good example of this one. I actually used the example of like the town zoning board, but it would also be analogous in the county. If you worked in a county position, and it might not always apply to someone like supervisors here, but to employees in the county where you're in a position that you have the authority, we call it discretion, the authority to grant or deny something, and then you're working in private employment for a private employer that on that same project. So if I was to negotiate for a department, we're negotiating a contract with a particular company, for example, and then I turn around and go and work for that company on that exact same type of project or task or account that we negotiated with the county. That's an example where you would be doing something where your transaction is exactly, and this relates to C as well, where your transaction that you did with the government is one that you're working on now privately. So we have it as a conflict of interest where you would be doing that. It's almost analogous to the non-compete type of clauses that you'd see in certain, I'll call them high-level business contracts that you might have in the software industry or in the finance industry, things like that. It's a 2-year time period in B. In C, it has no time limit on it. You can have these for a very long time. A lot of non-compete clauses have some very long times. They have some time limits. A lot of this was also carried over from our old law as well on it. Generally, the time limit is going to become moot at some point because the transactions will change. And an example here would be contracts that we make with companies or other businesses. They might only last for a year or 2 or 3, maybe 5 years at the most, perhaps. They'd only be a few years. So that at some point, 10 years later, if you're working for a private employer and not the company anymore, it's very unlikely that you're going to come upon a transaction that you had worked on as a Warren County employee or a supervisor in some way. It's extraordinarily highly unlikely that it would happen. Theoretically possible, but an extremely unlikely chance that it would happen.
Does that address your question?
Thank you.
Thank you, County Attorney. Thank you, Supervisor. As it relates to this discussion, are there other discussion, other members that would like to discuss anything on this? Okay, hearing none, I will close discussion from supervisors for that resolution. Are there other resolutions before you this evening that you would like to discuss? Supervisor Stroud.
Yes, thank you. Resolution 233 which is basically to eliminate the mileage reimbursement for county supervisors. That kind of took me by surprise. What was the history and motive behind that? Can anybody tell me? I mean, it seems on the face of it to be penalizing our North County folks because they have to drive some distance to get to these meetings and some distance to return home. And I would think they deserve compensation, but is 233 taking away that compensation? So I just, can anybody fill me in on what's going on?
As chair, I'd like to address your question, Supervisor Stroud. This has been a topic that I believe has been brought up over a period of years in committee for discussion. And since 2014, I remember us talking about it. But that being said, I would ask that the chairman of, I believe it was government ops or finance, but regardless, Supervisor Beatty, this came up in your committee and I would ask you to address Supervisor Stroud, please.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. The place of business, our home office is the municipal center. Washington County took the premise that since it's their home office, supervisors shouldn't be paid to go from their home to their office. They enacted this about 2-3 years ago. And it's been pretty successful, I guess. And when you think about it, can you name one company that pays their employees to go from their home to their office? When we hold committee meetings here in the county, this is our office for all the supervisors. We all receive a county paycheck. So this serves as the office. That's the way I think Washington County looked at it, and it made some sense. And so they eliminated the mileage for supervisors to go to their office, their place of work, from their home to their place of work. Now, I would probably, I heard one comment from one of them say, well, we also don't get paid to go from our home to our town office as town supervisors. We don't get mileage for that. He says, and this is the same basic thing, because it's a separate funding source. So that basically is in a nutshell. Now, nowhere in that resolution does it state that supervisors cannot put in for mileage when they're on county assignments. Nowhere in there. It's strictly committee meetings and the Board of Supervisor meetings, which again, the municipal center serves as your office. So you're going from your home to your office. And I personally don't think the taxpayer should have to pay for that. I don't know one company, and I was in the private sector a number of years, I don't know one company in the United States that pays somebody to go from their house to their office. They reimburse mileage. Now, maybe there's one out there, but I've never heard of one. Because it is their home base, their office. So hopefully that helps Mr. Stroud.
Other discussion?
You don't know.
Supervisor Frazier, then Supervisor Driscoll.
I can assume if Mr. Beatty brought this forward, it's supposed to be a cost-saving measure. Am I correct with assuming that? And if so, I would like to know how much money you're looking at saving over the course of the year for the amount of mileage. My round trip is 70 miles. So I spend almost 2 hours getting down here and getting back. And it kind of disturbs me because I know there are board members here who get health insurance paid at the cost of $6,500 a month. That doesn't, or a year, that doesn't seem to be a problem, but paying us mileage. And last month I only had 3 trips. So I don't feel like I'm misusing the mileage part of it. I'm only come to the meetings that I have to be here, but I just wondered, was that the idea behind it because it's a cost saving measure? I mean, it bothered me too when I saw it with the very little amount of discussion that we have, but certain of these things seem to get pushed at committee meetings, whether everybody's in favor or not, and the next thing you know, there it is in the form of a resolution. But I am bothered by this, and I think it's kind of unfair to us that have very lengthy trips to make. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Frazier. I just want to, you asked a question, Mr. Chair, I'd like to answer it. In, as we know, for the public, in committee meetings, it's a one person, one vote, and a full board, it's a weighted vote. Here in 2018, the auditor, and I believe this was sent out, I can't be sure, but I know many supervisors asked for this. In 2018, the total amount of miles that were dollar amount was $10,107.20. In 2019, the total dollar amount was $10,775.58. Also know out of that, you're looking at 5 or 6 supervisors that are submitting miles. And I also believe the resolution before you is addressing committee meetings, which we've all, I think, done a very good job. And Amanda's worked very hard at consolidating those meetings and also now on Zoom. I cannot quickly find my 2020 list or my 2021 list.
That's fine.
But
That's fine.
I have these if anyone would like to see them while we're discussing it. I hope that answers your question, Supervisor Frazier. Supervisor Driscoll.
Thank you. Is this the appropriate time to ask if we could make this a roll call vote?
It is the appropriate time. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion that we make this a roll call vote, please.
It's so noted. I don't need
Okay,
a
all
motion
right,
for that. Thank you. Supervisor Wild.
Madam Chair, I was wondering if I might be able to get a sense of what the committee vote was. Was it unanimous for this? Because as I look at the representation on the committee, the majority are either Queensbury or Glens Falls,
What
which
committee?
have just a couple miles worth of commute, which it doesn't really affect them. But there are members in the North Country that do have significant travel expenses that I think we should be cognizant of. So again, my question is, what was the vote during the committee meeting?
I know the minutes were sent out from the meeting that had it. It will take a minute for Ms. Allen to look up that information. If you would please afford her that time. And out of pure transparency, I'm going to pass around this list. You can see what supervisors, because it is in all the North Country. I do believe Supervisor Wild, there's some submissions there from Queensbury too. In full disclosure, Supervisor Thomas, I saw your hand up and I want to make sure I acknowledge you.
Yes, thank you. I'm on the finance committee and I was opposed. I think I was the only one that was opposed. And I just for everybody's information, I have collected mileage before, but it's I think the last time was 2008 or 2009. I haven't collected any mileage since then, but I don't oppose somebody else being able to. I don't think that's appropriate.
Okay, we're still on our first round here. Would anyone like to speak who has not already been heard on this topic? Supervisor McGowan, then Supervisor Diamond.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I guess my question is, this county and town, you got your supervisors that are representing your towns and that. And I guess it was my understanding, why can't the towns compensate their supervisor for driving to this office from that office? I mean, why is it the responsibility of the county? I guess, is my question.
Yeah, exactly.
Supervisor McGowan, I can ask our legal counsel to answer that. I could take a stab at it, but I believe perhaps it's best coming from our counsel.
In the county law, the county may grant this mileage and mileage reimbursement. They don't have to do it. The towns, they can do it as well on their own. I'm not that versed on the town law as to where it actually is on there. I'm sorry, but the towns can do it if they want to. I don't believe the towns are required to do it either. It's up to the town to decide if they want to reimburse their supervisors for traveling to this here for the county meetings or not. I don't think it's absolutely required for them either. And there also is interesting to see what the revenue code has for it for the IRS as to what of these might be tax deductible, unreimbursed business expenses as well that individuals could make use of. So I'm sorry, I can't answer your question any further.
I believe you just did. I know, and just to also answer, Brett, that's exactly what I do. I don't submit, but I do, write up, I will list it on my taxes, for unreimbursed mileage as it relates to county business, or other jobs. But I don't profess to be an expert at the IRS. To answer your question, Supervisor Wild, the meeting was a finance committee meeting. You had in favor Supervisors Beatty, McDevitt, Bramer, and Bruno. You had an opposition Supervisor Thomas, and absent were Supervisor Merlino and Supervisor Diamond. It is one of our largest committees of finance. Moving on with my list, Supervisor Diamond.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My comment would be to, I just wanted to try to answer Mr. Supervisor Wild's question, and you've already presented that answer to him, so thank you. I wasn't present for that vote at that point in time.
Thank you. Supervisor Bramer.
I will just say that, we are here on county business and we are here to wear our county hats. And when we do that, we're coming to the county building. This is our place of employment. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to be heard that has not? That being said, Supervisor Stroud. Oh, I'm sorry, Supervisor Wild. I thought I had you down as speaking in round one. I did. So I'll have you right after Supervisor Stroud, if you don't mind. Supervisor Stroud.
Mine was more of a question. I was looking at the agenda. We're at discussion and public comment. We're not yet on the agenda item that requests for roll call vote, correct?
We're on discussion of resolutions.
That's right. Okay.
Yes. Did you have, when we're finished with this, I'm happy to come back and ask you for if you have one for a roll call vote.
I do.
Okay. Yep. I'll make a note. Supervisor Wild.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry it's taken so long to get through this, but I think if this does pass, that I think we give the execution date to start January 1. This has been going on for a number of years. I think give town budgets a chance to adjust to this if they're going to reimburse the town supervisors. And I think it's only fair to continue it through the end of the year if it does pass.
So noted.
And I'm not sure if I need to make a request for a modification, but if that's the protocol, I'd like to do that.
Are you making a request to amend?
Yes, that it's effective January 1st, 2022.
Is there a second to his motion? Supervisor Diamond, is there a discussion on the amendment? I will call the question then. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Discussion? Or I'm sorry. Abstain? No. Oh, I'm sorry. Supervisor Thomas, please let the record reflect he is opposed. The motion carries then, and could you just read back then that number, that resolution?
Yes, that's on resolution 233. It was amended to make the elimination of mileage effective January 1st, 2022.
Thank you. Supervisor Stroud, what resolution were you looking for a roll call for?
Well, is 233 already been called?
We already
I've already asked that,
Okay. All right, but
Yes, sir.
so that I want to make sure that's on the list. 234, please.
For a roll call?
Yeah.
Would you like discussion on that?
No, it's
Okay.
just that I'm on the board of trustees and I need to recuse myself to keep my independency.
Okay, understood. Thank you. So noted. Is there discussion on other resolutions before us this evening? Hearing none, I would like to go to the public and ask any members here in the public today. This moment of privilege of the floor is as it relates to the resolutions, which refers to the conversation that you've heard here this evening. There is another opportunity for privilege of the floor at the end of the meeting about any topic. So do we have anyone that would like to talk about resolutions? Yes, sir. Will you please come to the podium and state your name?
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Stuart Allen, and I live here in Queensbury, very close by on Glen Lake. I wanted to tell you that I am a volunteer in lake protection. I serve on the Glen Lake Protective Association Environmental Committee. However, I speak for myself only. I also volunteer with New York State for lake protection. And I also am a business owner outside of the area. So I am very interested in our economic situation as well as our environmental situation. And I am greatly heartened by what I saw here the past couple hours, the tremendous support for protecting our lakes in Warren County. That's vitally important. And I want to thank Supervisor Bramer for bringing forward this resolution today, because we need to move this forward. We are out of time. We have kicked this down the road for years and years, and it is now approaching a crisis. We are losing revenue. Tourists are seeing on the news in Albany and elsewhere that $1 Million Beach has closed. They are not coming here. We cannot measure what is not being spent. We can certainly measure what is being spent, but we are losing revenue. We are losing taxes. And this is a great concern because this can turn bad very quickly. And we are approaching a crisis. It is 115 degrees Fahrenheit today in Las Vegas. 115. Here in the North Country, our average air temperature in Warren County has increased close to 4 degrees Fahrenheit since 1980. Our water temperature in most New York lakes is also now 4 degrees warmer than it was in 1980. And the reason this is important is because the higher the temperature, the more harmful algae blooms. And harmful algae blooms are extremely problematic, as we all know. They have tremendous ability to destroy tourism and our quality of life, our economic base, our property values, our tax revenues. So I support moving this forward as quickly as we can. I understand some people have legitimate concerns about how these issues will affect their local communities, and I respect that. However, I just want to point out that we have kicked this can down the road. We are behind the 8 ball. This is urgent. We need to move this forward. We cannot waste more and more years debating it. We need to get it out to the public. The septic transfer law in Queensbury is working extremely well. Over 80% of these properties that are inspected are being fixed. And I'm watching it on Glen Lake for the past 2 years. It's wonderful to see new systems going in and the lake water improving constantly. We need to do this not only in Lake George, of course, but throughout Warren County and eventually throughout New York State. We've got over 7,200 lakes in New York State. So there's a lot of work to be done in all the different counties, and hopefully it will be done on the state level eventually. But I want to thank everyone here for helping move this forward. I just want to point out how important this is for our economy, our quality of life. It really depends on this. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you all for working to protect our lakes. Extremely important. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Are there other comments from the public? Mr. Lehman, are there comments from the public regarding resolutions?
Yes, we do have one comment regarding Resolution 242 from Travis Whitehead of Queensbury. Mr. Whitehead writes, in regards to Resolution 242, a resolution approving a state grant valued at $340,000 to be used toward the replacement of the Lake George wastewater plant, which has been a source of wastes entering Lake George in excess to state standards for many years. I am not opposed to the passage of this resolution as the upgrade is long overdue, but I would like to say that now that additional funding has been found, the board should consider withdrawing the annual county contribution toward the plant made 2 years ago, made years ago until Town of Lake George agrees to take actions in monitoring and controlling the waste entering the lake from town residences along the lake and its tributaries. Travis Whitehead.
Thank you. Is that all on resolutions? Mr. Lehman? Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate all the discussion. And at this point in time, we'll begin voting on resolution. I'm sorry, Supervisor Thomas.
Yeah.
What did I miss?
I would like to have a roll call on Resolution 229.
Thank you, Supervisor Thomas. I should ask, are there any other motions for, or any other requests for roll calls this evening? Hearing none, Ms. Allen.
Sure. Okay, resolution 198, making supplemental appropriations. Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
oh, Mr. Garrity,
Yes.
Mr. Conover.
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett,
Yeah.
Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Chairwoman Seaver.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 199, amending Warren County budget for 2021. Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild.
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Garrity,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Chairwoman Seaver.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 229, amending agreements with certain applicants for the disbursement of 2021 occupancy tax revenues. Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild.
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
No.
Ms. Shep, oh, sorry, Ms. Shepherd's not here. Mr. Garrity,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett.
Yes.
Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Chairwoman Seaver.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 230, amending table of organization and Warren County salary and compensation plan. Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild.
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Garrity,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett.
Yes.
Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Ms. Hogan, I'm sorry, Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Chairwoman Seaver.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 233 as amended is resolution amending mileage reimbursement paid to members of the Warren County Board of Supervisors for travel to the Warren County Municipal Center to attend committee and board meetings, and that was amended to make it effective January 1st, 2022. Mr. Stroud,
No.
Mr. Wild,
No.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
No.
Mr. Garrity,
No.
Mr. Conover,
No.
Mr. Leggett,
No.
Mr. Diamond,
No.
Mr. McDevitt,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
No.
Mrs. Frazier,
No.
Ms. Smith,
No.
Chairwoman Seaver.
Yes.
The resolution fails with only 399 votes in favor. Resolution 234, approving tentative operating budget for fiscal year 21-22 for Adirondack Community College and providing for public hearing. Mr. Stroud,
Recuse.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Garrity,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yeah.
Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Chairwoman Seaver.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 236, increasing capital project H 322 Palisades Road over Brant Lake and Lake Bridge.
Chairwoman? I can't remember, may I?
Yes.
May we move 236 through 239 together?
Is that one, is it?
If no one's opposed, then yes.
You can make one.
You can vote on all together as long as no one's opposed.
Is there any opposition to voting on 236 through 239 together? They're all DPW. Hearing none.
Okay. This is on for resolutions 236 through 239. Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Garrity,
Yes.
Mr. Conover.
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Chairwoman Seaver.
Yes.
Those resolutions passed. Here, resolution 240. Increasing capital project H254 Fire Training Center project. Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Garrity,
Yes.
Mr. Conover.
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett.
Yes.
Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Chairwoman Seaver.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 242, establishing capital project H405 Lake George Septic Replacement Program. Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Garrity. Mr. Garrity stepped out. Mr. Conover.
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett.
Yeah.
Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Chairwoman Seaver.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 243, authorizing appropriation of funds from the Environmental Testing Reserve to the Real Property Tax Services budget. Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild.
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
A reserved yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
So, Mr. Conover.
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett.
Yeah.
Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Chairwoman Seaver.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 244, authorizing appropriation of funds from the occupancy tax reserve to the tourism budget. Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild.
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Conover.
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett.
Yeah.
Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Chairwoman Seaver.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 246, authorizing county treasurer to write off uncollected Medicare and private pay receivables for the former West Mountain Health Facility. Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild.
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Conover.
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Chairwoman Seaver.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 247, authorizing appropriation of funds from the Westmount Legacy Reserve Fund to the public nursing home budget. Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild.
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Conover.
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Chairwoman Seaver.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 249, enacting local law number 4 of 2021 entitled "A Local Law Adopting a Pilot Youth Deer Hunting Program." Mr. Stroud,
No.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett.
Yeah.
Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Chairwoman Seaver?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 250, enacting local law number 5 of 2021 entitled a local law amending and updating local law number 6 of 2014, Warren County Ethics and Disclosure Law. Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
yes,
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
yes,
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Chairwoman Seaver?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 252, amending tables of organization in Warren County Salary and Compensation Plan. Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
yes,
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
yes,
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Ms. Smith.
Smith.
Sorry. Chairwoman Seaver?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution number 253, authorizing appropriation of funds from the appropriated fund balance to the county attorney budget. Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett?
Yeah.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
yes,
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
yes,
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Chairwoman Seaver?
Yes.
Resolution passes. And you just need a collective on the rest.
All those in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Any opposed? Any abstain? Thank you. The rest carry. And are approved. And back to our agenda. At this time, we have general privilege of the floor and public comment. I'd like to first ask any of our supervisors for privilege of the floor. Anyone? Supervisor Bruno, then Supervisor Leggett, then Supervisor Stroud.
Yeah, I thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I don't want to hurt Mr. or Supervisor McGowan's feelings, but from what we've learned in the past 24 hours with regard to COVID and restrictions and stuff, when do you think we might dispense with these monuments to Mr. McGowan?
I like this one.
I like the design and everything, but, you know, I really like my colleagues to the right and left, and lately I'm feeling very isolated from them. So if you could give me an indication, I'd appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Supervisor Bruno, I can give you that indication right now. If I don't offend Supervisor McGowan.
Excuse me, I would like a roll call on this.
The news just came out last night, and I think it's fair to say that we're responding to it. We were able right before the meeting to get all the signage down. And I know just given the fact that we just got over 70, we thought we'd slowly work on bringing those down over the next month or so. So by the time we're at the next meeting, provided nothing drastic happens,
That's fine. Thank you. Just trying to add a little levity to this.
that would be wonderful. Then I can see you clearly as well, too. You have a glare. So next I saw, hold on, I'm going to my list. I had Supervisor Bruno, then I had Supervisor Leggett, then Supervisor Stroud, and I also think I saw Supervisor Diamond's hand up as well. So,
I want to speak about Gene.
yes, sir. Did I say Leggett?
Yeah,
You're- okay.
Sarah, thank you very much. I just got to say, this has been the most comfortable Board of Supervisors meeting with the sun, the back, warming me up, not sleeping. I might not need the jack. Thank you very much for picking this beautiful day.
We're happy to have more of them at 4 o'clock for Supervisor Leggett. Oh, no, but it has been great to be able to have the public here as well. Next up was Supervisor Stroud, I believe.
Oh, thank you. I've got two people I'm going to speak to today. One is Ken Tingley and his words and his wisdom. So I'm going to share that with you, and then I have another person I'll speak to right after this. Cleaning up the politics of the land. This is something technically recently published. Cleaning up the politics of the land should start locally, and new chairwoman Rachel Siebert talked a lot about working together and being nonpartisan. She is talking a good game, but her actions speak otherwise. Siebert reorganized the leadership structure on the board to include majority, and minority leader. If anything, that seems to draw even more attention to the political affiliation of each supervisor, not less. Siebert then reorganized the committee assignments and managed to avoid giving Queensbury Supervisor John Strout a chairmanship. As the supervisor of the largest town in the county, Strout brings talent and experience to the table. He also defeated Siebert in the Queensbury supervisor race in 2017, and you can't help but wonder if this is payback or an opportunity for Siebert to position herself for another run as Queensbury supervisor. Keeping Strout out of a leadership position does not serve the citizens of Warren County, it serves Rachel Siebert. And these are the words and the wisdom of Ken Tingley. Now, talking about a person of great wisdom, we also have to mention Joseph Warren, because tomorrow, June 17th, is the 246th anniversary of when Joseph Warren gave his life for the independence of this country. And his wisdom helped establish the concepts that were established with this country. He volunteered his life on June 17, 1775, on top of Breeds Hill in the Battle of Bunker Hill for all of us. And that's why we named the county after him. And I thought I should mention that because tomorrow is June 17th. Thank you.
Supervisor Diamond.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to speak to the floor resolution number 3. I supported the transfer of funding, but I've been on the record several occasions, and I want to go on the record today, that I do not support the paid administrative leave that's included in this resolution. Thank you.
So noted. Thank you. Supervisor Garrity.
Just give an update on Supervisor Molino. He had a setback at his town board meeting the other night, but he is home. He is doing well. He's probably going to take a little bit of time off to get his to feel better, but he appreciates all the calls and messages he got from his colleagues here at the Board of Supervisors. So he will be home, and he is home now. So he is feeling better though. So he wants to extend his thanks to all of you who reached out to him.
Thank you, Supervisor Garrity. On behalf of the board, a get well card was also sent. Other privilege of the floor here this evening by supervisors. Hearing none, I'll ask the public. At this point in time, you are more than welcome to address us and share with us your thoughts on any topic.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. My name is Norman Dasher. I'm the Chief Executive Officer at the Hyde Collection, and I'm here tonight with our Chief Development Officer, John Leffner. And first and foremost, I want to thank the board, the administrator, as well as public health for the guiding our region through the pandemic. And we're all eternally grateful for the efforts that everyone put into that. Next, I'd like to thank Warren County, the board, as well as Warren County Tourism Occupancy Tax Coordination Committee for your previous and continued support of the Hyde Collection. We genuinely appreciate your commitment to our organization. The Hyde reopened to the public on May 1st after being on pause from January 1st through April 30th. During the pause, we furloughed almost 30% of our full-time staff and reduced all other staff salaries by 20 or 50%. We also greatly reduced non-salary expenses in order to appropriately address the loss of revenue associated with the museum being closed, as well as the cancellation of all of our fundraising events. This plan has enabled us to survive the pandemic. Our priorities at this time are to ensure that our finances remain stable and in order, and to create a rigorous marketing and promotional campaign for our exhibitions and to expand our reach throughout the capital region and beyond. This campaign will include digital, print, and broadcast media. The occupancy tax funds have and continue to enable us to do that. In addition to our permanent collection, so far in May, we hosted the annual high school jury show, along with 3 exceptional exhibitions, including sculptures by John Van Alstyne, modern contemporary art from the Tang Teaching Museum, and some rarely shown pieces from the Hyde's permanent collection in an exhibition called Mysteries and Masterpieces. The past 18 months have been incredibly challenging for the Hyde and all arts organization, but we made it. On behalf of our Board of Trustees, our staff, and perhaps most of all our community, we thank the board for your leadership and commitment during this difficult time. And we look forward to doing our part to attract visitors from near and far to experience the Hyde Collection and all that our wonderful region has to offer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for the good work the Hyde does. Other public comment today from anyone? You're welcome.
Thank you for passing the
You're very welcome. Don Lehman, are there any comments as we're still under the governor's order for online comments?
Hello, we have nothing on YouTube as of now.
Thank you. At this point in time, we will go to announcements. I do have one announcement that I would like to make. I appreciate the special committee that this board has tasked me with forming as it relates to the ethics disclosure form. Previously, I know the chairwoman of personnel had asked for anyone that was interested to please contact me in person or call me. And the individuals I've heard from so far, and I certainly appreciate their willingness to serve and take on this role. It's a lot of work. Supervisor Diamond has agreed to chair this committee. I very much appreciate that, with his vice chair of Supervisor Bruno. Supervisor Bruno, I appreciate that. Supervisor Bramer has expressed interest in being on that committee as well. So please, again, feel free to reach out to me and let's have a dialogue about any other members that are interested to serve on that. Are there announcements from other members? Supervisor Bramer and Supervisor Driscoll?
I apologize. I would have liked to speak during privilege of the floor and I was missed that. It's not exactly an announcement, but I know that Supervisor Diamond expressed his opinion about floor resolution number 3. And I just, as personnel chair where the county attorney's office reports through, that relates to a position in the county attorney's office. And we are currently in litigation, as you know, and we are defending the county. We're defending the county's position and we are following our advice of outside counsel with respect to how to go forward with that particular employee. I understand your concern and I would rather, personally not have to have the county pay that money and not have the person working, but we are following our legal advice.
Thank you. Supervisor Driscoll?
Thank you, Chairwoman. Last month, I think or I hope I recognized the mothers that serve on our board as well as work for Warren County. This month, I'd like to recognize the dads on the board as well as those that work for Warren County. Being a dad is one of the most difficult but rewarding jobs that personally I've ever had the pleasure of having. And again, a shout out to all those dads as we celebrate Father's Day this weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other announcements? Supervisor Diamond?
Well, not quite an announcement, but I want to comment on one comment that you made was the fact that we have this subcommittee to meet to talk about the ethics disclosure statement. And I know there's 3 volunteers. Can we put a timetable to get enough interest that wants to sit on this committee so we can start the process and get going to work on it?
Absolutely. I think the work has to start right away. Your timetables to present back to the July meeting, a proposal to the full board. So that's up to you as chair of how many meetings you will be having with that. I will, however, ask that please by tomorrow evening. We've been talking about this for a while, so
See what else is interested? Yeah.
sure, please call me. Okay, Supervisor Garrity is now appointed to your committee as well.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. And Supervisor Conover, you were a very active participant during the personnel with that, and I would appreciate it if you would accept my offer to serve on that committee with the other members.
No, I think that'd be fine at the time, but I'll certainly review everything and I can check whatever.
Was there another member? Supervisor Leggett? Supervisor Leggett, you accept that nomination? Thank you. You have now a committee of 5, Supervisor Diamond.
So much.
That was about as quick as we've decided anything very quick to give you your members. Are there other announcements? Supervisor Beatty?
Yeah, just one comment. I'd like to thank everybody for being so civil, other than one supervisor, but we raised the level of the bar. We're communicating with each other, and I want to thank all but one who showed true class and raised the bar. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements? That being said, I hope you all enjoy the rest of your Wednesday evening. May I have a motion to adjourn? The motion is made by Supervisor Bruno, seconded by Supervisor Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Good night.
The game starts at 5.